I think we're live here, guys. I'm not sure what's going on here. It was kind of trying a new setup today. We got a new microphone. We got new here going on. But welcome, Poker Live Podcast. My name is Joe Ingram, a.k.a. Chicago Joe. It's going to be weird not to touch this. We got two microphones because after the last podcast with Nick, I didn't really like the way the audio sounded. So we got a new the new Shure SM7B. So now we got two here. But we're here and... That's it. Boom. It sounds good. It looks good. It sounds good. Poker Live Podcast. I'm back here, guys. Coming up next for the shows, we have Gus Hansen. Next Monday, we have your boy Gus Hansen.
My
right?
boy Gus.
Boy Gus Hansen,
Everyone's
right?
boy Gus.
We got Gus Hansen next Monday. We got my man Jason Somerville next Wednesday to talk about running up Reno and just overall what Jason's been up to because he does a lot of really, really great stuff with the run up Reno. I know you know Jason as well, too.
Oh, yeah. I've known Jason for years.
We're talking to Mike a little bit, too. Right, we put the shit up here, man.
Yeah, let's move.
Bam.
Oh, sweet.
You see that? All right.
Yeah.
So you can kind of just fuck with it if you want to.
Okay, gotcha.
That,
yeah.
But yeah, we got that. Tomorrow I'm putting up my Phil Ivey Baccarat investigation video. That's going to be straight fire. And
I personally cannot wait for that. Cannot wait.
There's a lot of. There's most information's out there in some capacity, but I found a good way to combine and aggregate and stuff like that. So I feel like this video, people are going to enjoy, and it's going to answer the question. What the hell did he do? Yeah. Why did he do it? Sort of thing like that. And what's edge shorting? Is it illegal? Should he get his money back? And the case is still pending, so it's like he still could.
It's extremely relevant still.
Yeah, still
exactly.
Very relevant. Yeah, so I'm excited about that.
Maybe the judge sees it, realizes what they didn't understand. Phil wins the case and is like, "Poppy, I got to give you $1 million for this. Thanks." You know, maybe you get the root bone.
Obviously, I love the way Scott thinks. So as you can see, I'm very happy we have Scott on the podcast today. We might make $1 million here going on. So. We also got a video coming on Friday. There's a guy online, Scott. He won $1.3 million against one player. He won 65 buy-ins, Lars Luzak, in one session.
Lars won 65 buy-ins?
65
against
buy-ins.
the same dude.
Same guy.
Oh, my God.
The same guy. And then Rob talked about he said the guy won all the money at the slots.
Wow.
So he won the money, and then he went and lost it to Lars at Heads Up PLO. 65 buy-ins.
Lars
$3 million.
Really an old school legend. I mean, been around for eternity, just crushing high stakes.
I know. It's so we're gonna do a little bit about that as well too. Saturday we're doing video. Rough title: Why is online poker illegal in America? And technically, I believe it's not illegal, but it's illegal in certain states, and you can't play in certain states. Regulated somewhere. Basic premise is: what the hell's going on? Why is it like this? Is there any hope that it could potentially change in the future? Why is Sheldon Adelson so against online poker? What is the impact of poker being illegal in the United States? Obviously, people got to play on PP Poker, and they got to play on the app sites. They got to play on ECR. They got to play on these unregulated sites where the players are kind of...
You have to take some real risks,
exactly.
Which seems... I don't know enough about it, but from what I hear secondhand, often seems not worth it on a lot of these sites.
Well, it's just...
It's just dangerous, it seems,
right.
Some of them.
Yeah, John Caesar, let me know how the audio sounds here, if our mics are the same volume or not, and if they're not, let me know. It's the first time I'm really using these two right now, so I think we have them set up, but my mic sounds quieter than Scott's. All right, that's going to be perfect. So we'll put Scott's a little bit away from his right now, and yeah, let me know. The Blur should buy a camera instead of a mic. I'm definitely buying a camera next, Fernando. But that's about it. But yeah, man, joining me today on the podcast, a young man. He plays some of the highest stakes poker games in the entire world in Bobby's room. He has been battling in the online poker streets, live poker streets, for a very, 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 very long time right now. He's a man that loves poker more than 99.9% of people out there, I'm very sure. A man who is, he desires to be one of the best in the entire world, and I feel like he's certainly near that point, right? I feel like you're near that point, man. Trying to, right?
Exactly. All we can do.
Plays tournaments, plays cash games, plays everything, plays the out-of-line game as well, too, out there in the streets as well. So we got Scott Seiver, if you didn't recognize him. Scott, welcome officially.
Thanks for having me.
Officially the show. First time on the show.
First time. Thrilled to be here.
I know, man. Nice. Very nice to have you. I feel like it feels like I've had you on before, but then you just haven't. I don't know. I don't know what made it happen, I guess, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. It feels like it should have happened already. That's what it is. I know. But we're just going to make up for lost time now.
I know, man. Scotty, for people out there that don't know much about you, tell people a little about you, man. What do they got to know about a Scott Seiver if they don't know? Maybe they've seen you. I feel like maybe people have seen you on like a cash game, or they've seen you in a Doug Polk episode, or they might have seen. I think that's actually how some people see you. Maybe they see you in like a Doug Polk hand breakdown sort of thing like that.
Well, like poker-wise, poker career.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah.
Started off back in the day, online player, almost all entirely heads up cash. tried to run those streets for a few years. As games dried up there, PokerStars at the time introduced mixed games, which never existed. And like a bunch of people like just tried for the first time. And I was like, oh, it's always fun playing a brand new game for the first time. It's something that always appealed to me. In fact, we had talked about it for years. Back in the day on 2+2, there was like an attempt at a big tournament being run from all the high stakes players where each person was going to invent their own poker game, put it in a hat, and each heads up match would draw which game it was. This was back in like 2008. Just like everyone wanted to like try new forms of poker. So when Stars made mixed games for the first time, I was like, I want to get in there. I want to try it. I've never played any of these games ever before, like nothing. And I just jumped into the highest they had at the time, which was 1 in 200 limit, which was like 25-50 no limit, because I don't know, I've always been a huge believer that the best way to get good at something is play against the best people you can. Like, you will learn the fastest from playing against the toughest competition.
Also potentially lose the most quickest. But
Yeah, of course, but that's part of it. Like, also, like, you have to have the ego to be like, you know what, if I lose it all, it's fine. I will go back and grind it up somewhere else. Which has happened to me many times, where I've gone from extremely robusto to completely busto and just have to fight it back. But did that, got into the mixed games that way, and then started playing live. Black Friday happened. I moved to Toronto for like a year and a half to play online, but was like, I want to get back in the States. I have all my friends here, family here. I was just kind of done being overseas. So I'm like, I got to get into the live circuit. Moved back to Vegas and been doing that since, and now I play in the Bobby's Room games here.
Yeah, pretty incredible story. And so kind of Scott, when you even talked about played online, so big no limit hold'em player from what I remember of Scott, and played a lot of on PokerStars Master Blaster. What was your full tilt name?
Full tilt was Master Blaster.
What was
PokerStars was Gunning for You.
Gunning for You, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So you'd always kind of see him in the no limit tables as well, and then all of a sudden you just kind of hop into mixed games, which was a common thing we saw some players do. Most players not as successfully, and a lot of those guys kind of hop back to PLO, or they hop back to no limit as well.
Yeah, most hop back to PLO.
Yeah, very, very. It was tough because when you're very successful at PLO or no limit hold'em, and you're winning a bunch of money, and then you go to mixed games, the desire to maybe grind through that variance, and I think it's like this even when you switch from no limit to PLO, it's you can win at no limit, so you switch to PLO and it's up and down, and you're like, fuck this, man, I'm going back to my game.
Exactly.
Most people don't want to stick, for rightfully so, debatably too, is that they don't really want to stick with that new game and grind through that variance time period. But what I've seen happen with certain people that do is that their upside is pretty massive when they actually do stick with it. And it seems like for yourself, that was one of the best decisions you could have made.
For sure.
Because it allowed you now to not have to stay in Toronto if you didn't want to. Now you can come back here, and now there's more of these mixed games. You can play the high stakes games in the Bobby's Room. But I guess that really, is there other places to play mixed games, or is that the only spot to really get in the mixed games?
There's a bunch of spots where you can play mixed games, but at this stakes, at this level, it's really just this game is like the biggest and best game for it.
Right.
Which is another thing that just helps like keep poker so fresh for me, because it's just the most fun game ever, pretty much, that I've found my way able to get to play regularly.
So poker in general, or mixed games in general?
No, specifically this Bobby's Room game. Just the characters are just so crazy. The atmosphere is so fun. The money is so big that it just like keeps everything really fresh.
I'm gonna zoom out here a little bit. We also have a new camera set up in here, guys. So we got a bunch of new shit happening today here. So I'm just gonna be kind of messing around with it and make it work here. We're upgrading the setup a little bit along the way. We're gonna be redoing the background here as well too. Got some new microphones. I'm gonna put together a new little office in here, a little studio kind of podcast setup for when I have guests over. So it just kind of looks better. Kind of upgrading the thing, right? Take it a little more seriously.
Exactly.
Get more professional. I got people messaging me.
We're watching the evolution as it happens.
I guess so. That's true, man. Yeah.
Get to be a part of it from the inside. Very special.
I guess when you look at the evolution of your own career, man, you take a look. Would you ever imagine that 2019 you'd be living in Vegas, playing the highest stakes games, and kind of in the position that you're at in terms of with poker success and where the future might lie for yourself?
I mean, to be honest, I did think that, but that's just because I've always been an unbelievably arrogant, unbelievably cocky guy.
Okay.
And if 2019 had come and I wasn't this far, I probably would have moved on to something else.
Think so?
I love poker really the most than of anyone, but what I really love the most is competition. I've always been like hyper competitive. I always want to win at whatever I do. I always want to be the best at whatever I do. So if I wasn't taking strides where it looked like I was getting better and better, where it looked like I was progressing and advancing, I might have gotten more bored with it than I have.
It's interesting. So do you feel like the players that we've seen have that success and then maybe move on? Do you feel like they didn't necessarily have that drive to them?
Oh,
and they didn't
definitely not.
Yeah.
And I feel, again, not that it's a knock against them, because different people have motivation and drive differently. If you don't have that drive, you're not going to be able to be at the top level for 4 or 5 years. You're going to have your 2.5, 3 year stretch of dominance, and then some new kids are going to come and you're going to be toast. Like, you have to have that fire at all times. Otherwise, someone's ready to come and take the crown at any time.
It's something I've been interested in thinking about we see players have that hot streak, maybe like a Fedor Holes or even like Justin Bonomo. They have this ultimate hot streak, and I always wonder, why would they want to keep it up, and will they kind of keep it up? Will they have that desire and that motivation? Because I think it's really easy to have that top line success and just crush it for a time period and then say, well, what's next? And I guess for yourself, man, what keeps you around to still want to be working this hard? I mean, you're putting in, what was the longest session you put in this summer? I feel like would you play every day or something like that?
Yeah. I played every day. I was averaging like over 100 hours a week for like 10 straight weeks.
Right. You don't have to put in 100 hours. You don't have to be doing this kind of thing.
A, I love it. Okay. And B, it's glory. Like, glory is the big motivator. It's about like the chip on the shoulder, wanting to be known by my peers or the people that I care about, that I can fucking do this at like an elite level, and that I'm just like always there, that I'm like the force to be reckoned with. And honestly, it's just fun. You're battling in the streets against the best in the world, and it's just, there's no rush like it. There really isn't. Yeah,
man, you got Doyle Brunson obviously in the mix there.
All-time legend.
86 years old. On the last podcast with Nick, we said he's 83. I've been corrected. He's actually 86 years old. The man is bad. Is he in there every day in Bobby's room for the summertime as well, too?
A lot. Maybe not every day, but like 5 out of 7, let's say. Maybe more. It's unbelievable.
86, you think you'll still be doing it like that?
I have no idea. I can't imagine, but like, it's just crazy to think about what his career must have been like. Because you hear him talk poker, and you hear him explain what poker was like when he was 25, when he was 30. Like, it's unfair, the things that he got to do to people. Like, it was taking candy from a baby. And here he is still now, 86, just mixing it up with the best still.
I'm seeing some of these comments. The live chat's a very interesting place in here, man. Like Trey, I'm always fascinated by what these guys get fired about. Like my man Trey Morris, I've literally never seen this man comment before, and he says, "Take the fucking sticker off the bottom of your water bottle."
He's really passionate about it.
I know,
too.
like
it would ruin everything.
I've never heard that much excitement from a person about. Like I've never seen this guy's name ever. Yeah. His first comment,
long-time lurker, but this was the one that he had to get in there to let you know.
This is what I'm saying. It's just like it's fascinating the kind of things you see from people out here, what they decide to comment on. I mean, Trey, thank you very much. Dude, I'm glad you're so passionate about that.
I'm glad you were smart. You purposely left the sticker on, being like, "Oh, I hope someone in the crowd gets real fired up about this." Brings them in. I thought you must have done this on purpose. Bring Trey in.
Are you like a consultant marketer for companies out there?
Yeah, of course. We're gonna plan all these little esoteric things that are slightly off just to get people fired up, and then they're engaged. And once they're engaged, they can't leave.
I could definitely see you doing something like that.
Yeah.
If you were to do content, although I don't think, I guess like the whole content thing versus I want to get back to talking about the players in Bobby's room as well, because I think a lot of people out there find those guys fascinating too. But just the idea of poker players, content space, it's such a interesting place in that the people that we see normally aren't necessarily people who are playing a lot of poker that are doing content, whereas the people who are grinding poker day in, day out aren't doing content. And I think it's just,
it makes a lot of sense to me. So much of it is left brain, right brain. So much of poker is like high level analytical math, really high level calculations and number crunching on the fly. And then so much of content is personality, being a people person, having empathy, understanding both what a guest would want and what the fans want. It's like complete opposite sides of the brain. And I feel it's like very difficult / maybe impossible for people to like be supremely excelled at both.
Right.
And like the people that are, it's very rare. So it's like a really cool niche to get to see when it happens.
Yeah, it's very interesting because whatever with the chat. The chat is a weird fucking place today, guys. We got people asking for money on Venmo in there. We got women in there talking with a bag of money. I don't know what's going on. Scott, you bring out some fucking weirdos today, buddy.
They're all here.
I mean, we got love for the weirdos out there,
of
for
course.
sure. But I mean, this is very strange fucking play out. These guys are kind of freaking me out today, man, out there. Hold on, let me turn this mic up a little bit here, man. I'm getting too tilted by this stuff.
Yeah.
Let me try that. Let me see if this works here. If anybody lives in Vegas and is a professional, please just come over to my house and happily help me get this 2 microphone setup here going on. So it's but yeah, if you're in 480p right now, you're probably in the wrong setting, Tomar. So calm the fuck down. Jesus Christ, motherfuckers out there today. Y'all firing me up out there today, guys. But yeah, I think with the whole content space, you're kind of right. It's that. Plus, I just think if you're trying to become the best you can be at poker, you got to be focused on poker. Yeah, you can't be doing this and doing that. It takes a lot of mental energy to consistently place in poker, especially if you're playing in tough games and you're not bum moneying, or if you're not playing against the weaker recreational players in private games and stuff like that. But if you're actually trying to become the best,
people are dedicating themselves to this shit
right
at a level that really had never been before. So like you sleep too long, the game moves on.
Right. And something we talked about before this got started was that you see this as a time where you need to take advantage of this.
Definitely.
You need to put in the effort, you need to put in the work, you need to go all out and really maximize your time here.
Yeah, I don't know. The way I think about it is we have no idea what the future will look like. But I feel like if you go super far into the future, 30, 40 years, let's say, it seems unlikely to me that poker will exist in the way it does now, just at the speed it's going. And so that means at some point, someday down the line, poker is going to either be gone or be radically different from what it looks now. And I have no idea when that'll be. That'll be 30 years and it's fine, or in like 7 or 8 years. But I feel like right now, while poker is great, and it truly is, and people talk about it. And I understand that the online situation is so different and that solvers and people using things in real time can make games at the highest levels like much more difficult and different. But none of that is happening in the live forums. Like, poker is still poker. You against a table of other people, you're looking them in the eyes and you're all just doing your thing.
Right.
And it's a beautiful, wondrous thing. But I have no idea how long that's going to exist for.
Well, you'd have to imagine that at the stakes you're playing in the mixed games, that should last for a while, right? Because first of all, like the guy to come in there and maybe fuck things up, first of all, he's got to get good at all those games. Then he has to have enough money or be backed or be able to last when he has some variance and goes to the downswing. So it's like...
There's always going to be an appeal, I think, for people wanting to challenge themselves against the best in the world, no matter what it is.
Right.
And like I hate this comparison because it always sounds arrogant to me, but I think truly this is a lot of what is happening in our game, where like even no matter how rich you are, it's tough to like pay money to get to shoot 18 with Tiger Woods every day if you wanted to. You just can't do it. You can't, play one-on-one against Jordan every day if you want to. But if you have the money, you can play against Doyle Brunson every day if you want to. And that's like a beautiful thing for people to get to do. And I think that will always be a draw.
It's actually a good point, right? I mean, as long as Doyle's still playing in there, and even you get guys like a Gus Hansen come in there, but then you also have new players establishing themselves as well, too. A Scott Seiver, like a Hollywood Haxton, like a Nick Schulman, who I feel like maybe right now we see you guys a certain way, and the poker community sees you guys a certain way. But if you guys are around 10, 20 years, I mean, Doyle Brunson's been around since what, the 1960s?
He's been around forever.
So there's a reason why we view Doyle Brunson as Doyle Brunson, and that just comes with
longevity,
time.
Of course.
Right, that comes with time. And I can imagine a place 10, 20 years from now, we have some guys battling there day in, day out. Now, the thing is that will we see that? Because there is more opportunity out there now. There's more things that you could be doing. There's access to the internet, which then shows you everything else you could be doing right now. Whereas before, Doyle's grown up in the 60s. maybe that view set for him to say, okay, well, I can do this, I can do that, just wasn't the same way as it is now. Whereas yourself, if you're on social media and you're looking around the world and you got friends going to Jeju, Brazil, Germany, all these different places for poker, you might say, well, do I really want to be sitting here playing all the time for this many years? And maybe do I want to do something else? So it's like, do you feel like with yourself that might come to a point where that is? Because right now it seems like you're still really locked in and you're still motivated to become a better version of yourself at poker.
I'm locked in and I love it, but part of the reason why I don't get burnt out, and Nick commented a little bit on this the other day, is that like our game doesn't go 24/7.
Right.
I don't have the option to play every day. So there'll be like 3 months on and you are playing and you are in there battling, and then you have 2 months off and I'll go on vacations and travel or visit friends or pick up tennis or do whatever like thing that excites me in that moment.
Yeah.
And then 2.5 months later, there'll be poker for 4 straight weeks. And by the time that comes again, I'm back and I'm fired up already.
That's a great point.
The natural way that our game works keeps it fresh because it's like on for a few months, off for a few months, on for a few months, off. So I feel I'm getting various other passions and joys and enjoyment in my normal day-to-day without the break from poker.
So basically, you're making the case for just people taking breaks more often.
100%.
Because the games are always going to be there.
Exactly. And this is the thing that I've never really understood when I see at lower stakes people in the casino, like you're playing a 5-10 game, let's say, and there are people that are playing like 36 straight hours. And it's like, why are you doing this? This game literally runs around the clock 24/7. You don't need to burn yourself out when you have the option always available to you. But that's one of the hardest things about being a poker player is self-control. Like, and I am the worst at that. Like, if my game existed 24/7, I would literally die on the table. I would have a heart attack because I would never leave. But the fact that it forces me to leave is fantastic, and I think is one of the number one things to keep it fresh and exciting for me.
It's very fascinating because I just remember I didn't take a day off for about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And I think back on that now and I say that's the dumbest fucking approach I could have taken. And I don't know why I didn't. I just thought if I wasn't playing, I wasn't getting better. And I was setting myself back and someone else was playing. But I think the way to think about it is that those breaks are actually very healthy for you because you get your mind right, you get to get your body right. You get to get just kind of out of that zone and get yourself a little bit healthier in these other ways.
Definitely.
And then you get to get back in there full motivated, fully focused. Your brain is just thinking a little bit more clear than it might have been thinking before. Those leaks that you had before that sort of built up seem to go away when you kind of come back after it.
You don't realize how much it matters until you do it.
Right.
Like, you, in the same way you never like realize you're tired until you step away and you're like, oh shit, I was exhausted and not thinking. You don't realize how even if it's slight, how burnt out or not you can come.
Right.
Until you take like a little bit off, recharge, rejuvenate in whatever way you do, and come back and you feel that fire.
Did you know that before you started playing these games that don't always run, or is this something you sort of accidentally figured out and you're like, oh well, that was
a combination of both. Pretty much my whole career has had a lot of like stretches off because of what I would play. Like I was never like a 6 max cash grinder, or I never played Zoom or any of that stuff. So like even way back in the online days, when I played, I would just be like sitting at heads up tables waiting for action, and I might go 3 days of no game, and then I was just fucking around on the computer, reading, doing whatever I wanted because I literally couldn't get a game, and then I would get something and then play 15 straight hours for the next 6 days. So it's kind of always been part of what I've been doing.
Where do you think this desire to not want to take breaks comes from for poker players? And maybe it's like this in other careers too that I'm just not aware of. Is it aware of everything? Okay.
It's inertia. Like, I think lots of people think it's fire or desire, or some might even say it's like gambling addiction partially. I don't believe any of that. It's inertia. If something is working in our lives, it's very hard to change it. Even if you could do something better in your life by making small differences, just the power of inertia of being like, you know what, it's no effort to stay the course, and it's a lot of effort to change, dictates our lives. And this happens in all sorts of ways in our lives. Like, you'll have the person in a bad relationship that knows they should break up, but they keep the relationship going for like 4 more months just because it's easier not to. It's similar to that. You get in a structure in poker where you go, you play all the time, you're doing this, and your life is working doing it. And it's very hard to think, you know what, I need to change things up. I could do this better. I could do this healthier because what you're doing is already working for you.
I guess you have to be mindful to be able to do something like this.
Exactly.
And you can't, and that's obviously a very big challenge nowadays, especially too with all the distraction out there for us as well. So you have to really ask yourself, how do I feel? Why do I feel like this? You have to be very aware of your body, of your mind, and remind yourself of that too, in order for you to take a step back and say, okay, I feel like this. I understand my body needs this right now. I should take a few days away from this.
And these are the hardest questions to ask ourselves.
Right.
And we're all garbage at it, including me, especially me. Like, it's very, very difficult task to look yourself in the eye and say, what do I need?
Yeah, Raoul McWenna says, why do we not change? I think that's a really good question, right? Just the idea of why don't we write? And you kind of touched on that too, but then how can we? How can we remind ourselves? I think that's where having someone hold you accountable really helps out.
Exactly.
Whether it's your friends who are pushing you to be better, or whether it's your girlfriend, or whether it's your spouse, or whether it's a family member or something like that, or even like an online poker forum kind of thing like that, if that's what it is, a group chat or
100%.
You know what I mean?
For the same reason that it's so much easier to solve your friends' problems than your own.
Isn't it?
Like, whenever a friend's like, oh man, I have this really tough situation, I can't figure out what to do. I feel like 9 times out of 10, it's like, hey dude, it's blaringly obvious, do this.
Right.
But then I think the same thing about myself, and I'm like, I have no fucking clue. And then my friends will be like, Scott, it's blaringly obvious, do this.
Right.
I think that's just, you know.
What comes to mind? Is there something specific that comes to mind that's related to that sort of thing, where maybe you didn't see it yourself, but then you had a buddy who said, hey, and you're like, oh shit, okay, that makes sense?
Honestly, nothing particular. It's just even small things that happen all the time. I feel we're just so bad at self-analysis that it's so much easier to work with other people to like look at the whole picture. Like, I think that's always a weakness of my own, I would say, is I'm usually very good at like reading emotions, reading people, understanding a situation, let's say. So I can be talking to you, you can tell me a problem, and I can maybe hear by the tone in your voice or the worries you have what you subconsciously think you might want to actually do but don't know it. But then I turn that on myself and I'm like, oh, I'm always right with this shit. And then I have an incorrect belief because obviously we're wrong about tons of shit, and I can't tell myself I'm wrong because I'm so used to assuming that like my thoughts are right.
Do you do a lot of exercises for yourself where you ask yourself a question and then think about it from what you believe to be right, but then also try to consider those alternative viewpoints potentially, even though you don't believe them, but maybe you say, well, why don't I believe them?
So I've basically just been starting to do exactly that, which I think is like extremely healthy and like one of the core tenets of mindfulness, which is something I'm awful at, like really awful, but wanting to work on.
Yeah, it's something I studied a lot over these past few months. Is it seems like to make change and to learn properly and to be able to understand and to be able to move these things from short-term to long-term memory, you have to be mindful throughout that entire learning process. So you have to be mindful when you're taking in the content, when you're doing the coaching, when you're redoing it, when you're retelling it, when you're talking about it with people. And if you're not focused throughout this process, it's basically, you're just not retaining much of that information.
Exactly.
So you're sort of making yourself repeat this process over and over and over again. You're very rarely taking anything out of that.
You're not actually getting anywhere with
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
And then you're sort of wondering, you're saying, well, why am I not learning this as I keep repeating this process over and over again? And it's oftentimes because you're not truly being focused and paying attention. And trying to say, okay, well,
you're going through the motions and telling yourself you're doing deep critical thinking when you're not.
When you're not doing any,
you're doing
exactly,
all the shortcuts.
Exactly. And that's something that was really big epiphany for me, was that a lot of times I'd be out there studying and, you know, I have my phone right there and I'd be note taking sometimes, but a lot of times I would just be fucking distracted.
Yeah.
And it's such a habit for us to pull it up. We pull up Twitter, we pull up our Instagram, we pull up our text messages, we go to the fucking forum. You know, we have these websites we go to that it's just a habitual nature for us.
Yeah. Go-to crutches, just the handicap of like, I need to reset my brain for a second, click Twitter.
Right. Breaking that deep thought. The uncomfortability sets in your mind because you've been so stagnant there and you're like, well, we don't want to deal with that uncomfortability.
Yeah.
And whether that comes down to just fear or whether that comes down to not recognizing uncomfortability as us actually potentially being able to
just
learn.
a subconscious desire to like avoid things that make us feel unpleasant.
Right.
When even if our higher level brain knows that we need to lean into the discomfort, that doesn't actually stop our like limbic system subconscious from being like, oh shit, don't think about this, get away.
Right. And I think that comes down to being able to do that as being, once again, it's mindfulness too, is that you reframe the uncomfortability as a learning experience. And you say, okay, I am aware I'm uncomfortable right now. I'm aware that I'm learning this or doing this or thinking about this thought, and it's making me feel fucking strange.
Yeah.
And everything in me wants to pull up my phone, go to Twitter, scroll through it, and just get out of this mindset.
Yeah, exactly.
But I've been finding myself as those biggest breakthroughs of understanding myself and understanding these deeper topics is that exact moment right there. And not pulling away from those moments, which is very tough because you have to get into a habit to do that.
Yeah.
Because as you
But
said,
it's
we try to...
It's a muscle you can
Right.
grow and learn. Like these are things that literally get better with practice.
Right, exactly. And that's what I've been realizing too, is that you define, whether you want to call it vision or manifestation, you define what exactly it is that you'd like to get better at, and that could be anything. And for you to get better at, you just need to repeat it over and over and over again, even trying it, doing it, studying it, whatever. And if you don't understand something at first, you just keep doing it, whatever it is.
Exactly.
And you're going to get better at it too. So when
and for me, just to interrupt for a second, that's the joy.
Yeah.
Getting better at something is always my primary motivator. Like, which is a little unhealthy. Like maybe the primary motivator is like, oh, I'm doing this because I want to be more mindful. No, I'm doing this just because I like being good at things. Like I just want to be the best at things I do. So it's like I like watching my own progress more maybe even than the results I get from it.
So where do you think that desire comes from? Because I find myself to be the same way, is that I'm almost maybe obsessively sometimes in some ways. I'm always thinking, okay, how can I do this more effectively or better? And I guess for yourself, is that something that comes from growing up with around your family or an environment that you're in, or where do you think that came from?
I've just always been hyper competitive with everything. It's always been the things I've been most drawn to, be it like random like board games to sports to everything where there could be like a winner. I would be obsessed about and love and like try my hardest to win. And like I always had like extremely unhealthy but unbelievably high standards for myself in everything I did, that like I just never enjoyed half-assing things. I never enjoyed doing something for the fun of it and like who cares if you win or not. Like the things that were actually fun for me were, showing that I was the best at whatever it was.
Do you think it's more of a self thing for yourself, or do you think it's because to prove to other people? Or do you think it's a combination of both?
Honestly, I think it's more to prove to myself for me. I've just always been like a really cocky asshole, to be honest. I've just been like, I'm fucking great. So like I should be the greatest at whatever thing X I'm doing. And if I'm not, like there's a mistake here because like, look how great I am. Like I must be doing something wrong if I'm not climbing to the top of the mountain.
So do you think that's a way to motivate yourself to be able to get to that point? Do you think you have to do that to be able to get to that point? You need to have that level of confidence? Or maybe if you didn't have that, you wouldn't push yourself as much and therefore wouldn't be able to achieve exactly what it is you're trying to achieve?
100% in poker. And I'm not saying it's a healthy thing or a right thing, but it's definitely true. Like if you are polling like the 100 best poker players in the world and however you define it, I would say like 25 of them would say they're in the top 5, something like that. Like you need some kind of unhealthy level of self-confidence to like use as a push, drive, and motivating factor. Otherwise you end up settling. Otherwise you lose that fight, that fire, that tenacity.
It's a really interesting point. I kind of want to make that poll now. I'd like to ask the people out there.
I've had that thought a bunch.
I mean, some people would be, they'd go with the humble side and stuff like that. They'd probably say that.
But like, if you were able to ask every person in the main event, yes or no, are you one of the 500 best players?
Oh my God, can you imagine that?
I think you'd get over 2,000 people saying
Can you imagine that? I mean, that's what makes poker beautiful, is
Yeah,
that people
course.
have that belief, and maybe they're right. Like, I mean, how do we know if they're wrong or right in that situation too?
On the other hand, just to touch on for a second, I think this is the number one hardest but most important skill in like the highest stakes of poker is self-awareness. One thing that makes poker different than any other sport or game even is that any person can do the activities. anyone can say bet, raise, check, fold. It's not like I shoot 42% from 3, you shoot 35%. We can all do it. That's thing one. Thing two then is we must do what we think is the best. Otherwise we wouldn't be doing it. Like I'm saying raise here because I think it's correct. If I didn't, I wouldn't be doing it. So by definition, pretty much, you kind of have to think you're always doing everything correctly, because if you weren't, you wouldn't be doing it. But also that's not true. Like different people are better than other people. So like I'm playing at a poker table with Nick Schulman, Ike Haxton, Doyle Brunson, etc. We're doing different things. How do I know who's better? How do I know who's doing it right?
Right.
And knowing that someone is better than you at poker or worse than you at poker is possibly the most important skill you can have for these super high stakes cash games, because it's such a fine line between being good enough to beat the game and being the person that's losing in the game, that you need to have this self-awareness of how do I rank myself compared to these other people. And that's like close to an impossible task, because again, we have no idea really what makes someone better or not. So you're just like kind of watching people play and seeing how things happen and develop, and you're like, oh, that's a real interesting thing that happened that I might not have done. Why did they do that? And then you start having these like self-reflecting thoughts on it. And I think that's what separates good players from the best players.
Right.
The best players know the people that are still better than them, while great players just think everyone's equally great.
I was going to say, what you're saying and what came to my mind instantly was that, like, I kind of focus on the players who are aware of those things and who maybe they go even too far in some ways. Some people I've worked with in the past, they're kind of terrified to play the higher stake because they think the players are maybe a lot better than them, like unjustifiably
that's
so.
Just from reputation instead of actually.
Exactly. And I'm always fascinated by that, because I always focus on the other side of things where people are overconfident. And I was unaware there was this other side that was underconfident, even though the results say they need to be this confident too. Yeah. And then there's that line you're talking about where it's you have that confidence to understand that I'm beating these people in all these different situations. But against these players, maybe in this sort of board texture, when my range is weak on the flop, and then they're aware of that and they barrel the fuck out of me, and I'm just not, you maybe try to avoid those spots. And
it's just very hard to know what you yourself are bad at. Because if I knew what I was bad at, I wouldn't do it anymore.
Exactly.
Like if I knew, oh, I am shit at this situation, then I would do that situation differently and wouldn't be shit anymore. So it's a real amount of self-reflection to know.
I got to go North Korea on this chat for a second. I get rid of these motherfuckers. I can't. My moderators are going to get fired after today. If anyone wants a moderator position, please let me know. Listen, all these guys are talking about farting at tables. Let's go to Twitch, guys. Get out of here, man. Okay, please. My God, what is happening? I mean, who would have known I'd actively openly choose to be have a chat where they're talking about farting in seat one at the table, man? You ever fart in seat? It's like, what's going on? Guys, what are you doing with yourselves out there, man? Come on, boys. Holy my God, what the fuck is going on, man? It's like we're at Carnival Court at 4 a.m. on a Wednesday night right now. Everybody's had 10 tequilas and Miller Lights and stuff like that. I mean, what's going on, guys? Calm the fuck down, okay? It's 12:55 on a Wednesday afternoon. What are you guys doing with yourselves out there, man? I mean, come on. It's just... whatever.
It's all good.
I just can't believe it sometimes. You know what I'm saying? I can't
it brings it out on each other. One person does it, then it gives the green light for other people to go in there and get crazy. They rile each other up.
Do you have an underground account that you go and chat on and troll in and Twitch or in YouTube? Nah, you don't do much chatting like that.
I don't do any of that.
What are you doing when you're not playing poker? What are you doing at home mainly?
Honestly, a lot is traveling for me. I have a lot of various trips with friends planned and that I've been doing recently. Go to a bunch of different music festivals. Huge concert guy. Love going to concerts. Just traveling a lot. Was just in New York for 2 weeks. Was in SF for a week. Going down to Austin for a week in 3 weeks. Then Mexico City, I'm going for a week in like 2 months. Like, I just plan a lot of trips with friends to various places. I just have a lot of fun doing it.
When are you going to Austin? Around what dates?
I'm going to Austin like middle of October, Austin City Limits Music Festival. Going with like 5 friends.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think I might go down there too. My friend Pam is having a fitness competition that she's been training for. Pam Maldonado. Do you know Pam?
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, you know Pam, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you know Pam too. Yeah, she quit Poker News and then started training fit, and now she's a fucking beast, man.
That's awesome.
She's killing it. So she's sick, man. I'm like, Jesus.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so she's gone there for that. So I think I might go on Austin for that too.
Oh,
and
sweet.
kinda,
It's the same times. We'll get some barbecue.
yeah, man. Yeah, you seem you love to travel, huh? So
Yeah,
you
I
mentioned
really
we were
do.
talking about New York City. You're at Burning Man as well too, which maybe some people like taboo to talk about. They think Burning Man and they think all sorts of.
It's a whole thing with that.
Yeah, you have a good time there. Is that you're kind of seeing the Burning Man kind of vibe?
Definitely my scene. I don't know. I've always just been a huge fan of artistic expression and people just getting to be themselves and not worrying what assholes think. And it's just so cool to have a vibe of 80,000 people just being chill, just doing whatever they want. The way I always describe it to people when people talk about Burning Man is that it's not like a party. It's not like a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a city. It's the same thing as saying I'm going to New York City or I'm going to Boston. There's just streets, bars, jazz clubs, whatever, anything you can think of. It's just a city you visit for a week to then do whatever you want. But with this overarching view of everyone just be a nice guy. That's the rule. Hey, just don't be a dick. And since it's such a pain in the ass to get to, and it's so hard to actually do all the work to get there, the only people that end up there are people that actually buy into it.
This is a deep festival theory I have right here. It's that the harder the festival is to get
100%.
to, the cooler the people are. Whereas
1000%.
at something like Ultra Festival in Miami, which is downtown Miami, you get a lot of cocksuckers there because it's so easy to get to.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's do you want to go there? Man, you might as well. Fuck it, why not? But Tomorrowland in Belgium.
Yeah.
If
Which
you're
I
staying,
haven't been, and I really want to.
Oh, it's great, man.
Tomorrowland is insane.
Yeah, but for me, I stayed in Brussels twice there, so you got to take an hour bus ride there and back 3 days to get there.
Yeah.
You're not gonna go take an hour bus ride and then go there and start fucking with people.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus, you got to go to Belgium in the first place.
You have to be committed to actually whatever the ideal or the belief is.
Exactly.
100%. The
yeah.
harder it is to get to one of these things, then the more people buy into whatever it is they're selling.
And you're talking about Burning Man now. I mean,
The
that is, you got to get there first. We got the tickets to go there, and then you got to make the trek out there.
Then you got to figure out how the fuck you're going to survive.
You got to survive out there.
You have to have a plan to live.
Exactly. What kind of person goes there and yeah, I'm going to really make this a terrible experience for myself and everybody around me.
And I'm going to spend months of work to figure out how to get there and do it, just to ruin it for everyone
Right,
else.
and then find the group of people to go with and have them accept me, and then go there and make it miserable and make them, it kind of
turns out it's just extremely self-selecting.
Are you what are you wearing? Are you wearing one of those crazy outfits? You walking around in the mankini or something like that?
No, but yeah, a bunch of crazy outfits, but no mankini.
I can see Scott around the mankini over there, just having a good time, enjoying themselves out there.
just living life.
I don't know what I would wear. I gotta go. I mean, obviously, a lot of people I know always say
Honestly,
I should go out there.
Again, the concert was one of the coolest things. It's not you have to wear the weirdest shit there.
Mm-hmm.
It's that you can wear I could wear this right now and no one would blink also, because it's not about just wearing crazy shit or doing crazy shit. It's about just doing whatever's comfortable for you.
Right.
So you'll have people wearing the wildest, craziest shit, and then you'll just have people wearing a polo or a button down also, because that's what they're comfortable with, and no one gives them shit.
Yeah,
either.
so no one's kind of
there's
everyone's
just
that
doing
makes sense.
their thing.
So in my mind, it's interesting because in my mind, I'm thinking, you people go there and dress in these outfits just because it's sort of the thing to do there.
Exactly.
Whereas maybe it's more of that's their way of self-expression, and when they think, what would I like to wear in a situation like this where I'm able to wear anything, I would like to try these outfits, not with the purpose of necessarily fitting into some conformity type of thing there, but I would just like to do this, and this is the only opportunity I maybe have to do something like this.
And honestly, in my opinion, especially so for guys, men's clothing has so much less room, I feel, for self-expression than women's clothing does, just in terms of so many styles and art shit that in general, walking around, if you're wearing something nice, you're going out, women can be in 40 different types of dresses,
right?
And almost all guys' suits look mostly the same. At the end of the day, you maybe get pinstripes, maybe you don't. You maybe do these small things.
Maybe throw some suspenders on there or something like that.
Yeah.
Not much variation. It's a really good point for
So it's pretty cool to get to just not really give a shit, wear some wild stuff if you want that speaks to you.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I mean, it's kind of American Psycho reference right there. You watch American Psycho, and it's all these guys in New York City all in the same suit, and they all look the same, and there's no differentiation between them.
Yeah.
And maybe you wonder if you take 100 women and you put them in dresses, even if they are different in I guess you could be sparkly, you could be colorful, it could be longer, you could be shorter. So I guess there is a lot more variation in what that outfit could look like in terms of self-expression.
Even look at like the Academy Awards or something like that, where it's like, oh, look at what all the women are wearing. They're wearing wild and crazy shit, and then every guy is wearing like a black and white shirt and suit.
That's true. And then you see some guys that are kind of going with the short sleeve suits now, the like the short sleeve shirt and the short sleeve shorts, and then they get a lot of shit for it, and then it's going to make other guys who just don't want to deal with that wear those things like that.
You're reinforcing the forced conformity.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think a lot of guys, they get a lot of shit. I mean, the other day I wore a yellow hoodie on the podcast with Nick, and then you get people in the comment talking about the yellow hoodie. I thought it was fire.
That was a great hoodie.
The hoodie's fire, first of all, okay? Yeah. And the people in the chat are coming. I'm like, you know,
it's like you said, though. It's so easy for them. If they had to show what they're wearing next to their names, then we'd see what's going on.
This is what I was saying.
Yeah.
I go, just give me a week. Give me a week with you. Give me a week and let me say anything. Let me say whatever comes to my mind. And I feel like, you know, I was talking about this with my girl the other day. It's I feel like everyone should go through just experiencing people give them feedback that they don't agree with, just to kind of see what it's like. And I understand people put themselves out there and that type of thing like that, so they invite feedback that isn't always positive. But it's a different experience when you have someone say, hey, like, your outfit looks like really big shit today, and you just like you look terrible.
Yeah.
And I always imagine, like, I just wonder with some of these people, if you went to them and like, listen, man, your wardrobe is awful. Like, you look like shit. You got.
And here's what I don't get. Like, would you ever do that? Would you ever do
that?
Like,
I never would do it.
I feel I don't know a single person that would ever do that. But clearly there's millions of them that do.
Right.
It's wild to me.
Yeah. Do you get a lot of comments like that? Do you get people saying, is that, I seem like that kind of stuff wouldn't bother you. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
not really.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you can't let any of this shit bother you because I don't care. Like, that's really just what it comes down to. Like, whatever these people think, that's fine. Like, haters will always hate on something no matter what.
Yeah.
And if you spend your whole life trying to appease them, then you're not being true to yourself. Just be true to yourself, and who gives a fuck what they think?
So the question is, what if your true self is that you are somebody people don't like because you're not the consensus agreed upon type of personality, and you don't do the consensus agreed upon type of actions that a majority of people do like or enjoy?
That's probably a thing worthy of thinking about then. But I don't know. I feel like that's why you have like actual friends instead of like anonymous internet people. Like, you have a friend group that's going to be like, hey, Scott, I feel we got to talk for a bit. Like, the way you do X, Y, Z makes you like a real piece of shit. And we think there's something to this. And then those are people you trust and validate what they say. Right.
Versus random people that you don't know anything about. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, I don't know, you have to be able to take constructive criticism because, yeah, obviously some people just suck. And maybe those people should change. But you're not going to be like, oh, no, I thought I was a great guy, but, you know, YouTube commenters said I'm shit, so I guess I must be shit.
Yeah.
Everything is about where the source is.
That's a great point. I mean, it's something important to remember, too, when you get the criticism, is that who is it coming from?
Yeah.
Right.
And,
like,
is it coming from love or hate?
Right.
Like, people can criticize because they want you to grow, and people can criticize because they want you to wither. And knowing like the source of why someone criticizes can do a lot for knowing how you react to it.
I kind of love criticism, actually.
Yeah.
Because it's a easy indicator of ways you can get better. Because I always think about criticism in that anything somebody says is I've thought it all, like, about myself. I've thought I've questioned myself.
Say, if you people think you can like get in my head, this head is fucking insane. Trust me, I have beat myself up for everything you would ever think of. Like, it's fine.
I wonder if that has to do with that's the process people that might like us might take to try to be the best versions of ourselves. And that
just the more critical eye you have, the more you demand perfection of yourself and everything else.
I remember I put up the other day on kind of going back to something you mentioned earlier about wanting to be great at things from young age. And I posted about when I played checkers when I was a teenager on Yahoo, and I was one of the like a top-ranked checkers player in that community. And you said that you used to play, what did you play, chess?
Yeah.
So you played chess on Yahoo.
On that same community.
I know. I used to, I don't know why I didn't get into chess. I found checkers one time, and they had these 1 minute matches.
Yeah.
So I would just play the 1 minute.
Which is what I did on chess, the 1 minute matches.
That's fucking hilarious. That's.
And it was all politics anyways. Which
I know, it's crazy.
Like 15-year-old me was like the most fun thing.
Oh my God. Yeah. You're like,
it had nothing to do with the game. It was just another competition that I could like outmaneuver people into like trying to win.
So they had these ladders on Yahoo, right, where you not only had to be great at the game, but then you had to politic with the right people to go up the ranking system to even play certain people. And then when you got a chance to play them, you had to actually beat them. Because you didn't beat them, you dropped down and you get fucked, because then other people would start jumping over you on there. So it was this very,
this crazy,
I didn't know anyone else knew about this.
Yeah, same. I had no idea anyone else ever knew about this.
Yeah,
that's you didn't mention it with checkers.
I know, man, that's crazy. And there was like the Dominoes ladder I kind of hopped into for a little bit, and Dominoes is like its own little fun game too. But man, I started playing checkers the other day, and I found a site. And went 30-1 out the gate, and I was like, okay.
Dude, I saw you post that.
I was
you didn't lose a thing.
I downloaded the solver again, because there's these checkers programs with chess, like we can study against solvers, where they'll analyze every move, and obviously the game tree is a lot smaller at checkers compared to chess, but there's still the main openings you can kind of learn, and against weaker players you just crush them every single time. So it's like I'm kind of just studying that again, and.
Dude,
like, man, I miss.
So you're an elite checkers player.
I don't know if I am anymore. I mean, I think like the best checkers players are going to be able to take advantage of me in the mid and end games too, and they're going to be able to set things up that like 6-7 move sort of setups that I just am not going to see right now because I'm not as sharp.
Yeah.
But I think if I dedicated my time to it, I could be able to compete.
But
I like the 1 minute matches though, because they force you to really think fast, and
exactly they force you to like get in the streets, if you will.
The skill gap's a little higher. Right. Exactly.
Meaning instead of just trying to literally memorize or solve the position, because it's solvable, you have to go like with instinct and gut and flow.
Exactly.
Which I always like so much more.
You kind of said in the streets, right? And kind of meaning that you might make a wrong play, it's not GTO, but then they got to think really quickly to make an adjustment to that play too, and then it kind of goes from there, where you're sort of just going heavy exploit, and you're kind of basing it off some theory that you studied.
Yeah,
but at the same
you
time,
get more beautiful games. The more likely you are to fuck up.
Oh yeah. When's the last time you played? You still play chess at all?
Very little now and then. I'll like play it for fun a bit.
You hop in any other games besides poker right now, or when you're not playing poker and not traveling, you're not sticking to any of their games because.
Some here and there, not really though. Like every now and then there'll be some like random video game I play that like catches my attention for a while, and anything that has like leaderboards and shit like this. I just like anything where I can try and like rank up high on shit that I find like really fun. But honestly, I still love poker more than pretty much anything else. It's the personal aspect of it. It's looking a guy in the eye. It's knowing like, hey, I know what you're thinking, even though you don't know what you're thinking.
Yeah, that's where the biggest edges I think in poker are, is that when you're aware of what somebody's doing and they're not aware of what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where you see these things and you say, man, this is.
I used to say this all the time for back in the day when I was playing like WPTs and like small, non-super high roller tournaments, that like you would see a guy get a phone call from his wife on break and start like arguing with her, and I would be like, okay, I'm ready for like the big bluff that's gonna come on the second hand he plays, because the first one he knows he needs to keep it together, and then the second one he's gonna just go off. Or like you see a guy wearing a certain type of watch and you're like, okay, I know he's going to be too tight in this way and this, that. And you would just like make up a ton of like reasons and reads from like the smallest thing. Because you play enough of these things, you see all these people are kind of the same. Like everyone fits into a profile based on the way they dress, the way they talk, the way they act at the table, like how much eye contact they're willing to make with you.
What does that tell you? Wait a second.
It tells you everything, just like how alpha or not they are, for then how much they think poker is like a game where you can bully someone, where you don't want to get bullied by a young kid. Especially when I was like 21 through 24 with a bunch of like, real big muscled up like 40-year-olds wearing a lot of gold chains and stuff. You can make a lot of assumptions based on the way you interact with them, what they're going to do before they even play a hand. So I've always been the type, I engage everyone in conversation. I'm talking, I'm trying to, like dig a little bit. I'm digging under the skin, trying to bring out like the psyche. And then I just make like outrageous explode choices
based off the information that you get.
Yeah.
So do you feel
I've never been GTO ever.
First of all, this is one of the most interesting topics I've ever discussed on the podcast, because I don't play much live poker, but when I do play live, I love talking. One, because I find it fun. Two, because I like to engage in the conversation. And three, because I think you pick up so much information out there too. And obviously Dan Negrano, one person that comes to mind who does a lot of this as well too, where he's able to talk to people and he gets them to open up. But this whole thing you're talking about in the break and the watch thing, these are things, I mean, I've thought the chain thing is like a joke. You say you see a guy wearing 15 chains, but I don't really play with a huge player pool at PLO Cash when I play.
Yeah.
But at tournaments, I never thought about this, that you could make these generalizations and off of all these different
Huge
things.
ones. Also, like if you're playing in like Atlantic City or Foxwoods versus the West Coast, how a similar looking person is going to act very differently, because if you know they're from like Jersey versus from SoCal, just their like level of probable rage or how chill they are is very different, and you can just make a lot of guesses at the non-super high roller level for what a person's going to do before you ever even play a hand with them.
So you're saying everything we do away from the table also conveys information as well,
Oh,
not
yeah,
just at the table too.
Honestly, I even think it's more so. I think mostly the concept of reads is bullshit. Like when people talk about like, oh, his left eye twitched, therefore he's bluffing.
Right.
I would say like 9 out of 10 times, and it is true sometimes, the 1 out of 10, but 9 out of 10 times it's either bullshit because these things are semi-random, or it's like the story we tell ourselves because we really fucking want to call. So we're just looking for, oh, his eye twitched, okay, call.
Right.
But I think you can do like an extremely, extremely good job of guessing who a person is and like what their like life story was, and given that story, how scared or not they'll be in a certain spot, or how likely they will hero you because of the fear of getting outplayed by you, et cetera, and you can make a lot of like extremely specific reads based on just like who they are as a person, but less so like if their left leg is shaking a lot.
So I guess an idea for me to implement or think about, or anyone out there to think about, is kind of when I go play, take a look at the full spectrum of the actions, the eye contact, the outfits, the body language, the way they move their chips, and sort of start to put together some patterns that I see amongst how these players act and their styles. And obviously this takes time to accumulate the data, but start with assumptions, test them out if they're accurate, and then continue to evolve those assumptions in order to build up these sorts of, and that way when you go to new situations, you're able to identify these things straight away. And then also over time, as they develop, you understand how the deviations are as well in terms of how those people act, and then you're able to form better opinions and better reads in certain people, and just in terms of overall style of play and things like that.
100%. And like even back in the day when I was like doing the like 10K tournament grind and shit, and I was known as like the biggest animal in history, I would go up to my friends that were huge nits that I was good friends with, and go up to them at the table and be like, hey man, good luck today. I know you're going to get them. Like, we'll talk hands on break. And I would like purposely say that to my friends that are like huge nits, hoping other people would see it to be like, oh shit, he's like friends with Scott. He's going to run some like animal bluff on me at some point. Like I would even like be thinking about stuff like that all the time.
That's very fascinating right there, man.
Yeah.
I actually don't talk to certain people I know that are weaker poker players at the table, because I don't want anyone to just think, okay, they're associated with me or anything like that too, because I've actually had something like that happen before, and I don't know if it's a positive or negative impact, but I just kind of like to stay away from people that I know that I think like people might fuck with them, or they might go out of their way to, or something like that. Yeah. I'm just not sure how they perceive that like that.
I had always perceived that people would think that if they were like in my poker circle, that they're probably going to be like complete animals, because especially back then
if they play with you.
Yeah, I had like many of just the most outrageous fucking hands ever, that I'd be like, oh, if this guy is a guy that's going to wait for kings or aces, I'm going to very loudly let him know he's like a good friend of mine, and someone's going to like look him up with like king jack.
Do you feel like these things are relevant at the stakes that you play right now?
No, not at all.
Not at all?
Honestly, just like not at all. Like the super high rollers these days, like no one gives a shit about this stuff. Like these guys are fucking machines. They are so good that like all these little subtle things, like, and you can kind of interact with some people on it. There are some people willing to play the game that can deviate more, but the people that are extremely good at it. So then you have to wonder, are you outplaying them, or are you getting outplayed? Like a Daniel Negreanu is willing to get in there and talk with you and like try and game flow you. Igor Kurganov is willing to get in there, try to talk with you and like out game flow you. But the reason these guys are doing it is because they're also the best at it.
Right. I mean, I guess the way you get the best of it is by you do it. You practice it. Like, even if you're bad at talking, you just start talking, and eventually you get better and better and better at it over time.
But honestly, also, it's just like, and we were talking about this before the show started here today about like cash game players versus tournament players, it's just a much more fun atmosphere if you're sitting around talking. Like in my cash game, everyone is talking nonstop and interesting conversations at the table the whole time.
Right.
And it's not like to try and get anything from anyone.
It's just to have a good time, enjoy themselves.
Yeah, like there's 8 of us at the table. There's only like 15, 20 of us that play this game. We're in very close proximity, sitting around a table 12 hours a day, every day. Let's make it fun. We actually like each other in the same way that like if you and I got dinner, we're not going to just sit in silence and eat and not talk. We're going to just talk. And like that's something in the cash games that like poker players realize, like, hey, we're stuck here and we're stuck here for a long ass time. Let's at least enjoy it and have fun with that.
That's not something my people at the tournament, I don't think they see it that way. I played
No, not at all.
I played one no limit tournament this year. Shout out to Poker Stars for giving me that nice 25K platinum pass to PCA, and not a lot of talking going on there. I tried to rattle people up a little bit, rile them up a little bit, and they talk to me a little. Whereas at cash games, everyone's always talking. It's such a different. I mean, this is obvious, right? We aren't breaking new ground with this fucking this topic right here. But
it's so interesting. Even like Ike Haxton, who had been like, he plays these super high roller tournaments, dead silent at the table. Past few months or so, like 6+ months now, he's hopped into the Bobby's Room cash games coming in, and now he's talking during hands. He's chatting. Like he can be like huge bet on the river and then start talking to you.
Oh
right?
no,
like,
I don't want that to happen.
No, but
please stop talking.
No, which is the thing that he would have never done before. But it's just like a natural progression. I feel that happens when you're in these cash games. You just get comfortable. You like stop caring about all these little things. So much of it is in your own head anyways, that once you're playing like a lot all the time against the same people, you realize you can just let go and do your thing.
So what happens? Hollywood Haxton makes a big bet on the river. He starts talking with you. What do you think? What's going through the mind?
It's not even that he starts talking for information, but
just
like,
talking in general.
Just talking. Like if he was in the middle of conversation with like Nick about some comedy special they saw, he's just going to continue the conversation.
Okay.
Like yeah, he bet $50,000 here, but shit, that's already happened. He can still talk about the comedy show to Nick. Like it's just no sweat off anyone's back at our level anymore. It seems.
Very interesting.
Which is really fun then, because then you get to talk with really interesting people.
Oh yeah, that's what Nick Schulman. I mean, I've had a few guys on the podcast. They're all very fast. I mean, you get you Gus in there. Gus is
no one even knows. Even when people think they know, no one has any idea what the Gus Hansen experience is like. It is 1,000 times better than what anyone can imagine. Even if you think you know, you don't. The guy is
his tree
unreal.
in his mind. He just he makes he's just like making the faces, the animation.
He comes up with his own like catch sayings in his phrases, and he will run them into the fucking ground. But his delivery is so funny that just everything he says is always the funniest, no matter what. It's like honestly, it's similar to like a Norm Macdonald type comedian that like the words he says doesn't matter, because his timing is just so insanely good. Like, the man is just fucking unreal.
I feel like the man is a natural entertainer in a lot of ways.
Oh,
he really is. Because you
clearly.
can tell from some of the, I think I've had a discussion with him before too, is that you can tell by some of the past decisions he's made in terms of how he does content. And he's always tried to do content in ways, but he has a more creative way of going upon doing it. And he seems to understand what people might like to see and what gets people sort of excited. So I feels like he has a very good grasp on emotions in general and what can generate an emotion or what can generate a reaction. And I'm sure he tries to do at the poker table. Like his antics, also he understands like him.
And he has no filter, and he has no fear, and he has no shame. It's like a really strong combination to be as out of line as possible.
It's going to be a great summer for sure.
It's going to be a great summer.
I mean, he did turn that phrase into an actual thing.
Yeah.
Just ran it home. You were in a lot of his videos, actually.
Yeah.
You're always, he's like Scott Seiver. I'm like, Scott's there every fucking, he's just always there.
Day, man. It's a great summer. What can we say?
Haas L. Scott, why are you so unlikable? So I personally never seen it that way, right? But then you see some comments, and some people might have. I feel like is it an issue with the attitude, with the confidence, or that people that you talked about the arrogance earlier? Do you feel like it's something to do with that, or where do you think that sort of thing comes from?
Where a lot of that shit comes from is, this is the first and like only like interview type thing I've ever done before.
People just don't know about you.
All content that anyone has of me is at the poker table or at the job. I am working. I don't give a shit about how I come off. because I am trying to do what I can to maximize my earn. I'm in a zone. I'm in a flow state. I don't give a shit about these interviews. I think it's like crazy. You like bust the biggest tournament of your entire life, and they need that interview in the same way, like, you know, you just lost the Super Bowl and you're forced to give the like losers interview.
Yeah.
Like, that's never actually good content, and that never says shit about a person. So I don't know. I feel so much of content of me out there is me being dismissive for something I consider to be like pretty worthless or meaningless at the moment,
right?
As opposed to just like me living my life or being myself. Like, I'm at a poker table. I'm not trying to be entertaining. I'm just trying to do my thing.
Well, Wookie said, why did I choose that question? Well, I chose that question for a very important reason. It's because I greatly disagree with that take, and it's not something I haven't seen before. When I mentioned having Scott in the podcast, you hear people say things like that, and I'm like, I don't know where they're basing this sort of information off of. So I feel like that's why I want to bring that up, because I just don't agree with it, really. And I guess I can understand, as you mentioned, at the poker table, there's been some moments where maybe you have certain reactions that players might not find whatever, right? You meant dismissive was the word that you used. So maybe it comes from that small sample size of moments, but I just think I don't think it's indicative of who you are as a person, though. You know what I mean? So it's, I don't know. Yeah.
Like, people see me on any media, anything. It's like me having like played in the big game, or me in like the super high roller bowl, or me doing whatever. Like, any content of me that is out there is me at that time playing the literal highest stakes of my entire life.
Yeah.
So it's like
you take this shit
really
seriously, man.
Specific situation that's seen. Like, the like content that was seen the most of me was like the big game, probably, which was like 3 and 600 with a 1200 ante, which was like by far like my biggest game I had ever played at the time. Like, I'm not here to like crack jokes and have fun. I was doing what I thought like it had to take to win for like the biggest opportunity in my poker career at the time. Same thing with like the super high roller bowl, or
the $1 million one drop.
One drop,
yeah.
Or, you know, like, I'm just doing my thing. I have to. Like, this is me at work. Like, let's go to your office and like record you while you're doing your like IT work. You're probably not going to be like entertaining and fun. You're just doing your job.
Right. Yeah, we got some other good questions from Angela Miko. I'm going to get to a few of these as well. I'll give you guys a couple of these questions, and I'll ask him about that. I've been drinking a lot of water here, so I got to use the bathroom. I'm going to give Scott a question. I'm going to let Scott handle you guys in the chat here for a little bit. And I guess, for let me go through here. Give us a Phil. You have a Phil Ivey story for the people out there? Angela Miko wants to know about a Phil Ivey story. You got one of those for the people?
Man. I don't know if Nick told or someone else told it. Have you guys heard the Phil Ivey massage story on here? The Phil and Nick Schulman massage story? That's probably my favorite story of his. That's
maybe I have, but I haven't. But I
don't know if it's a known
story
or not.
Give the people the story, and then I'll be back in 1 second.
Okay.
I need the bottle.
Yeah. So one of my favorite stories of Phil is when Nick Schulman's getting massage. Phil's at the table. It's during a World Series event, like a small one, a 1500, and Nick realizes that he doesn't have any money on him. And he's like, yo, Phil, can you pay for this massage for me? I have no money on me. Phil goes, no problem. Nick finishes the massage. Phil gives the masseuse $5,000. The massage was $200. Phil gives the masseuse $5K, says, keep it, and turns to Nick and says, you owe me $5K. What? True story, yeah. One of my favorites ever, because that's just how big time Phil is. That's how Phil operated. The most generous tipper of all time by far. But he just got Nick. He's like, hey, Nick, we're at 5 now, because Nick asked Phil to pay for his $200 massage. So, like, I don't know, a story like that just shows, like, the mindset of what Phil is.
Ban him forever. Just ban him. You can ban him forever, moderator over there. So he gives them $5,000 and the chip.
Gave her a flag and
she
said,
kept $5K.
Yeah, she kept $5K and was like, Nick, you owe me $5.
What?
Just one of my favorite stories, because like it's so outlandish, it's so completely fucking outrageous. But like, that's Phil. He would just do that because he would think it's hilarious. And he's right, it is hilarious.
What would you do if that happened? If that was ever, if somebody said, okay, can you pay for this, and they gave him $5,000 and said, okay, we're on.
Yeah, I have no idea what I would do. What Nick did is they like agreed to like settle for like $2K or something. So Nick ended up paying $2K, and Phil paid $3K just for the funny joke, and like it was worth $3K for him to like get Nick to lose $2K on a $200 massage. Like shit like that is just absolutely hilarious to me.
Jeez, man, you play a lot. Do you play a lot with Phil Ivey as well too? You played a lot of mixed games with him at all, or has he not been a part of those things?
He's been in and out. Like he's overseas so much in Asia a ton.
Yeah.
But like he'll play now and then. He's not like a super regular, but like when he's in town, he plays.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a recent moment on the Poker Central podcast. They put a clip of me talking about should we say goodbye to Phil Ivey, and kind of taking a lot of context. And kind of my main thing was that I would personally love to see more of Phil Ivey.
Oh, of course.
Right? Like I think we all would love to have him more in the poker community.
And
but
all-time legend. Probably the all-time legend of poker.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like he really wants to be a part of that for whatever reason, and understandably so. So it's like, but I think a lot of people out there who are in.
I think the lawsuit is just a real draining thing. Like
it has to be, right?
I forget the numbers, but like weren't the two numbers for like 27 million and
12,
10 million,
12,
something like
12
that?
and 8.
12,
yeah.
$20 million.
22, something like that, I believe. Maybe more than 8, maybe 10, something like that.
That would be on my mind a lot.
Yeah,
and
man.
like I think it's just some shit, he's trying to get resolved any way he can, which is taking all his time off. I know it would take all my time up if I had a $22 million lawsuit pending.
Yeah.
So
well, the one's already, I believe it's done.
Yeah, I think the London one is done.
Yeah, the Crockford's one, yeah, and then the Borgata one is just actually had a new ruling. It looked like it may go in Ivey's favor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the judge was more on Ivey's side in this situation, so then they just rescheduled it. And,
oh, sick.
Yeah, so we might see what happens with that.
Dude, that would be
pretty epic for Ivey.
Yeah.
Angela Miko, high stakes cash game power rankings. These guys love power rankings on here, Scott. I don't know if we're gonna give any power rankings on here, but do we have any maybe power rankings and maybe tournaments or maybe something like that?
I don't know. I feel like I don't want to say clear, but you can see the guys that just like are dominating everything they ever do, whether it's cash, tournaments, no limit, mixed games. Like you see like a Jungle Man.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever he does, people just speak great of him. You see a True Teller. He's just everywhere. Biggest private games, biggest public games, any form of poker that's ever existed. You just see him. Like and literally anything. Also, he is like the #1 greatest gambler. Like from a gambler. Like this guy is just willing to bet on anything for any amount. He's like got the true like gambler's core, and he never tilts. He just finds it like hilarious, the ability to like bet huge on anything. He's like a true gambler's gambler while being the best at everything.
True Teller.
Yeah, True Teller.
I didn't know that about him. Interesting.
Got to give True Teller huge shout out.
Shout out to True Teller, yeah.
Just like, he's the nuts, man. He's the aspiration for like, he'll just gamble massive on anything and feels nothing except joy.
So you're kind of thinking that the way to gauge these best poker players is to see the players who hop in these other areas and are able to have success in multiple different formats.
Oh yeah, like I'm not trying to take anything away. You take like Fedor during his run or Stevie now. Like these guys clearly are at such an unbelievable elite level that it's unbelievably impressive. But in my opinion, it's slightly different to do that in like 25 different forms of poker.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's something to be said about, okay, someone invents a new game of poker tomorrow. Who's going to be the best hand 1 and who's going to be the best like hand 10,000?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that says a lot about like your true innate poker talent. And I think like a Jungle Man, a True Teller, a Hollywood Haxton,
Haxton for sure.
Like these guys just have gotten it done.
Scott Seiver
over the years. I try.
Scott Seiver. I feel like we can put him on the list up there too. Third bracelet this summer, playing the highest stakes, success at multiple different formats, right? Like, I mean,
I'm trying.
We gotta throw you in that mix too, and obviously this is something you aspire to be as well too.
Definitely.
Yeah, this is something that I feel like you wake up each day and you say, I want to be the best in the world.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Like you desire to be the best poker player that exists on the fucking planet.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that's a unique mindset to have.
Oh, definitely, but just like, I don't know. I always believe if you're going to do something, do it because you want to be the best at it. Like, never settle for less. Like, dream as maximally big as you can and don't accept worse. Like, I don't know. I just always wanted to be the best at something. Always wanted to have that fire. Always wanted like the glory. I wanted my name to ring out. So, you know, a lot of what I do is like in pursuit of that.
My man Chris Kruk in the chat. I kind of want to continue down with this list that you mentioned about as well.
Oh God, I just saw Chris's question. It's actually one of the best hands.
Who else comes to mind when you think about these players, these best poker players right now in the world?
There's a lot of these mixed game guys that are lesser known because they don't do tournaments or don't go on television that are starting to get some accolades now. That's really nice to see. Like a David Oppenheim, in my opinion, one of, if not like the best all-around players that lots of people would not have even known the name of because he's like never played a single tournament pretty much in his life.
Yeah.
There's guys like this out there that are just truly fantastic. And I don't know, to me also for someone like him, even for someone like Phil Ivey, it's so much more impressive to me once you're older than I am. I consider like me and Nick Schulman to be like the inflection point age of people that were like the internet kids versus the people older than us that were doing it just because they like found a casino at age 21, started playing like 10-20 limit hold'em and went from there. Like it is so much more impressive to have not come up on the internet and to just be truly elite and to stay truly elite as each wave of kids come further and further. Like I've always joked that Black Friday was really good for me because
Interesting.
every generation of top poker players is going to have the next generation come and wipe them out at some point. That just is how life works. Like people build on previous ideas, they get better. Like the best baseball player now is just so much better than the best baseball player 50 years ago. Like that's just how growth happens in any sport, game, event. But what Black Friday happened is it stopped the younger generation from ever existing. Like a lot of kids like 4 or 5 years younger than me couldn't get the reps that I got in. And I think that's why you
For Americans,
see... Yeah, for Americans. And I think that's why you see that a lot of the true top Americans are now age 30 to 35. And there are not many at all age 25 to 30. There's like very, very few in that age range that like really made it and got good. And I think that's almost entirely because of Black Friday.
Let's think about this from the other side. Are there, I guess in tournaments there would be these younger generation of non-Americans who are great. Are there these same players in other games too, you think? In the mixed game, are there I guess in that age range for non-Americans who play mixed games or don't play tournaments? Because obviously we have a lot of younger tournament players like the German guys who've had a lot of success. But I'm trying to think outside of that. Yeah, it's a good point, right? I mean, we don't see many Americans that come up even in tournaments.
Exactly.
There's only maybe a very small number, right?
So for someone that was lucky enough to be in or near the top echelon when Black Friday happened, it was great because it added my longevity for like 5 years of getting to stay near the top that I think truly would not have happened otherwise.
It's fascinating.
Like you just can't stay at the top forever, but then like what I call like the 2+2 generation really kind of did for a much longer time than you would have ever thought.
This really answers the question, why are there not more younger Americans becoming great at the game or becoming well-known at the game, right? Black Friday, that did wipe out those reps, and they're getting the reps in on ACR and Ignition, it's not quite the same thing.
Like when I was playing Heads Up, like really grinding when I first started, I would get 50,000 hands a week, 40,000 hands a week of Heads Up. I would just, be four-tabling whenever I wanted, as long as I wanted. I got like huge reps in, which is the thing you just can't really easily do now.
Something you talked about that I want to kind of get into is you said if you're going to do something, why not try to do it to your best? And now I don't think that's a very common thing I hear out there from most people. From a lot of successful people, I do hear that. But I'm trying to figure out why is that approach going to be better? And maybe it isn't better, right? Maybe it's a very subjective thing. Why would that approach be a better approach versus somebody who maybe finds value in other areas and focuses on being great at those areas and then does these more competitive things sort of for fun or sort of for enjoyment like that?
I don't know if it's better. It's probably less healthy, probably what you described as healthier, but that person is never going to be the best at something, or very unlikely to. They're only just going to have a more satisfied and happy life. You know, shame on them for just finding happiness.
I know.
I'm going to be miserable, but God damn it, I'm going to be the fucking best at something.
Yeah, personal opinion. I think personal preference, personal kind of approach to how you want to do things.
I don't even think it's preference. I think it's just an innate birth. Just like you're the kind of person that obsesses and has the drive, or you're the kind of person that can take happiness with what life gives them.
Right.
And I am not the second at all. I cannot take happiness with what's given my way. I need to reach out, strive, and grab whatever I can.
I thought I always been that way, but now from studying a lot more, I've realized that it's kind of, you can choose which way you'd like to be. So if you'd like, it's hard for me to want to.
That's maturity. That's awesome.
Hard for me to want to say, okay, that's the choice I'd like to make when you've been obsessed with one outlook, or you've looked up to people who are the best at what they do, whether it's in entertainment or in sports or in knowledge or in all these different genres of things, and then say, okay, well, who am I going to look up to now then, sort of thing like that. That's sort of something I'm thinking about now as well. The people that I find the most engaging are the people who I aspire to be like in some form or the other, or people I can learn from, or I can take something away from. So it's a fascinating thing, right? You think about the people that just say, I want to be the best version of myself. I'd like to be the best father. I want to be the best husband. I want to be the best at taking care of my family in this house and making sure that they have a great life.
It's about finding what motivates you, but actually then using it as motivation to better yourself.
Right.
Like, it's one thing to say this is my motivation. It's the other thing to then use that drive to actually enact change on who you are.
Mm-hmm. Very fascinating topic for me. I know people out there want to hear some poker questions, so I'll ask some poker questions. Angela Miko asked some good stuff in there, so we'll run through. She said the biggest pot you played, Scotty.
Okay.
I don't even know. This could be anything, I feel like.
I'm probably going to get it wrong.
Okay.
Because I'm trying to think of several. First one that comes to mind is playing 501k heads up online against Zygmunt back in the day.
Okay.
And I stacked him for like 300k each.
Jeez.
Which was like...
No limit or PLO?
No limit.
No limit, okay.
No limit. We were just playing some heads up, no limit. I got aces. It was a wrap. It was like the easiest, no skill. I think he just had like ace king and we just put in like infinite money until it was all in. It was beautiful. One of my biggest pots there. I've probably played bigger pots in like in any of the like Asia games, but I'm not sure exactly thinking about like how big any of them were.
Yeah, what the translation is, or what the currency, whatever. Because it's like
and
75 billion Korean won or something. And honestly,
some of those are different that I don't even think about, because in a game that's like, 20 house, 40 house, like no one has all of them, so you can't. You have to like give pieces to even get to play these games. So I don't even view it in the same way as like biggest personal pots I've played. Oh no, as I'm saying this, I just thought of the biggest pot I played.
Slipped your mind. Okay.
Slipped
his mind.
300, 600, PLO 8. Okay. At 300, 600, I lost a $1.4 million pot. Which was...
Isn't that a limit game?
No, pot limit Omaha.
Okay, pot limit Omaha.
Pot limit Omaha, 8 or better. At 300, 600, I lost 700k in one hand. So like 1,300 big blinds. Which was...
Don't tell me. Let me think about this. Was it a heads-up match?
It was not. It was a full 8 or either 9 hand. I think it was an 8-handed game.
What position are you in?
I am UTG1.
Oh, so you have ace, ace, deuce, right? Double suited or something?
No, I have...
What? What do you have? Oh, no.
No. I have ace, ace, queen, 6, 1 suit.
Oh, God.
Under the gun pots, I repot.
Okay.
Cut off cold calls the repot.
Okay.
Big blind cold 4 bets. There's only 4 aces in the deck. What's happening here? Big blind cold 4 bets. Under the gun moves all in.
For how much?
For under the gun only has like 120k. So like 200 bigs. But it's so raise 3 bet cold call 4 bet. Under the gun moves all in for 120k. I'm sitting here with like 700k and aces in a 4-way pot here. I'm like, well, I know I have the right equity by far. I know it's not going to be much, and this is terrifying, but obviously we fucking go with it. I smash it in. The cold caller folds. The big blind goes with it. I'm up against ace deuce 3 4 doubles, or sorry, ace deuce 3 king double suited, and ace deuce 4-6 with 3 hearts in it for like 700k each. I mean, I had over 33% by I had like 39 or 40. I lost. That was that. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Ace queen 6.
Ace queen 6.
PLO 8.
PLO 8.
39 big blinds free.
But it's the best one. They can't all have aces when you're in this action. There it was.
What are you thinking after this hand? After you lose this hand?
Oh, it was devastating. I took some time off. I took a few days.
Did
off
you?
from
Okay.
This one.
Jesus Christ,
This was a tough one.
PLO 8. We don't recommend getting in 13 big blinds pre-flop with any hand at PLO 8, guys. Technically, but Scott recommends maybe the ace queen 6.
No, you got to push the edges when you have them. That's the thing. Like if you play scared when you're playing extremely deep poker and like 1,300 big blinds is just a thing that most people have not done much of at all. But like if you just play scared or play to manage, you're gonna turn huge winning spots into neutral or maybe even losing spots. Like ace queen 6, great example. It's a fucking terrible hand post flop. Like what the hell are you gonna do with it? But if you're all in and you're done with decisions, you're 40% three ways here. That's beautiful. I just made 7% on all my money.
That's true.
But then I lost all my money, and that was that. But in theory, it was great, and that's what matters. Also, I feel it's kind of rare for people. No, maybe not true. I was gonna say it's probably rare for people at my level to have lost the biggest pot they've ever played. So I feel usually you hear these giant wins.
In that situation, right, we'd have to assume, well, under the gun goes all in, so we have to assume that one of them has ace deuce. What other hands would people go all in with pre-flop there?
Nothing.
Okay, so they either have to have ace deuce or aces. So if they both go all in, you can assume that they both have ace deuce, because if this guy had aces,
the other person
wouldn't have a hand to go all in with, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so that's how you come to that 40% then, right? That makes more sense, because I'm thinking in my mind, well, if we both have aces, this other person has a hand, but what hand would they possibly go all in with?
Putting in
this is a good point. Okay, this is a PLO 8 specific type of situation then. Okay, that makes sense.
Under the gun was like a tight, good player that like potted first. He literally has an ace in his hand almost always.
Okay, that makes sense, because there's no other hand really, even like a
that you just raise under the gun.
3-3-4-4. I'm trying any hand. Is there any hand?
No.
8-handed? Okay, that makes sense.
They're just not good hands under the gun 8-handed.
Okay, I've actually played no PLO 8 in my life. I played one session of 5 cards. That's it.
Game.
Yeah. Wow, it's really interesting.
It's not nearly as good as the great game.
No, great game. Great game, pop minimum. I mean, it's
exactly.
Getting quartered. You know what I'm saying?
I'm
out. I'm getting quartered.
It's unseemly. It doesn't leave a good taste.
It really doesn't, especially when you're stuck and you make a speculative play and then you get quartered. You're like, man, I'm fucking.
How about this one? On this pot, we ran it 3 times or something.
This hand?
3 of us. Yeah.
Okay.
I got 1/16 or something like that.
Stop it.
No. I like chopped the low on one of the 3 boards or something like that. Yeah. I think I got 1/16.
How long did that take for them to split it up?
A long time. Also, this hand was at Aria, but there was a game going on in the enclosed room, and the entire top section was full, so we were playing this game in the $1 $2 section at the bottom. So there was this $1.4 million pot happening in the $1 $2 section.
Let me put myself in Scott's position here. They're counting out the chips. There's 1/16 in me up here. I'm tilted. I'm tilted on my mind.
And there's a huge rail of 30 people leaning around, seeing what the fuck's going on. And I just want to leave.
You're getting close,
because I'm under the gun one. I'm not even taking this fucking free hand. I am done. But I have to wait to count what 1/16 of this is coming back.
And you got to make sure they're doing it right too.
Oh,
and you're looking at it. You're
maximum tilt. Wow. Maximum.
Maybe one of the most tilting stories I've actually ever heard.
Oh, it was enraging.
Yeah. We got a girl in the chat, Lexi. Lexi Sterner says, "Hey Scott, smiley face.
Hey.
What's up, big head?
Hey, Lexi.
What's up, big papi? What's happening, big papi? Colamosa, calamota, la molacita, papi. Ay, ay, ay. My boy Patrick Kieran says, yo, when's Scott going to play on Live at the Bike? Patrick works for Live at the Bike.
Oh, nice.
Plays on the show. When are you going to go on Live at the Bike?
I don't know. Honestly, I've just never really found full ring, no limit cash fun.
Yeah.
It's just...
Especially as a heads up player.
It's slow and it involves discipline, which I don't ever have. That's why I got into heads up. The reason I started playing heads up is because I wanted to play every hand of poker no matter what. Mm-hmm. And I'm the fewer players at the table, the better an idea that is. So I just started heads up because I want to be in there every fucking hand. And I kind of am. still to this day, no matter what. So I just need to not.
This is what Shulman said. I'm staying up late at night thinking about Seiver on the button at 08, sipping his tea, and I'm saying, what's gonna happen here?
Yeah. No. I've ended up in a bunch of animal hands before, like hands that no human on earth could ever be in. Probably.
So you're extremely comfortable playing hands from all part of the game tree pre-flop. It sounds like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The hand that Chris Kruk asked about.
Let's talk about this. So Chris Kruk said, ask him about in the high roller versus Isildur.
Yeah, so this is day 2 of the Monaco 100K a few years back now. Isildur is directly on my right. We are both very deep. We're both top 3 in chips in 100K. He raises the cutoff and accidentally shows me his cards. Like he peels too high as he raises. And this motherfucker has Jack 6. Okay. He's raising the cutoff. He's got Jack 6.
Okay.
I look down. I got 9-3 offsuit on the button.
Okay.
But I've seen his fucking cards. It's
Okay.
Jack 6.
Okay.
I 3-bet him. Folds around. This fucking guy 4-bets me. So it's like he makes it 2 bigs. I make it like 5.5. He makes it like 15.
Okay.
We're 250 bigs effective. We're between 2 and 250.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I could just like ship it here and this, but I'm like, I'm going to call. I'm in position and I know he has Jack 6 and we have like so much more to play that he's going to put in stupid bets and I've got him still.
Okay.
So I flat his 4-bet with 9-3 offsuit.
Okay.
It comes like 10-4 deuce. We both fully brick.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like 50 bigs in there or like 40 bigs in there, something like that. He bets like 1/3 pot. He bets like 15 bigs. I flat him. If he doesn't hit a jack or a 6, like he can win the hand. So
Okay.
I'm just gonna get another bet from him when I jam over the turn.
Okay.
Turn, brick, like pairs the deuce. Guy just goes all in for 3x pot or 4x pot. He just fucking goes all in for like 4x pot here. And I have to fold, and he windmills the Jack 6 in my face. He goes, haha, you always fold. Shows me the Jack 6 nothing. And I just start yelling at him, I saw your fucking cards, dude. Be careful how you peel them. And yeah, I lost this huge pot. I lost like an average size stack person's pot, day 2 of 100K with 9-3 offsuit to him. Yeah, he's a legend. Isildur is like an all-time hero in
maybe
poker.
one of the only people to possibly win a spot like this.
Yeah.
While the other person knows what the other person has. Maybe he did it on purpose.
And I feel like I'm one of the only people that would have lost this hand because I was so greedy and went for the max. Like, you could shut the door on Jack 6 any point here. The guy 4-bets. I could just, like, fucking 5-bet massive overrip. Or he just, like, bets the flop with complete air. I could just rip over it. But no, I was greedy. I wanted one more bet. And then he just, like, 4x potted all in with complete nothing, no draw.
Do we think this is out of line if we see the opponent's cards?
So
what's the edit? What do we do here?
So I've thought about this a lot, and I've talked
this?
about it.
Okay.
Whenever someone accidentally shows their cards, I tell them 100% of the time,
Okay.
every time. But I will wait till a hand is over. I think it's fair for a bunch of various reasons.
Right.
Also, he specifically is someone that I've told multiple times in the past. I think it's a slightly different situation. I think what is unethical, and this is just my personal opinion, I think to like say nothing, to like hope they do it again is unethical, like, or to actively try and see someone's cards.
Right.
I personally think is unethical. Like, I think like if you're leaning back like this, that's some horse shit. And like, that's completely against like the spirit of what the game is.
Yeah.
But like, if you're in a hand with someone and they like show you their cards in the hand, like, I feel like, what are you supposed to do?
What are you supposed to do? That's a good question, right? I mean,
like, there was a hand in Bobby's room once where a guy like was on the river and like he bet and accidentally he slipped his hands and his cards turned up for a second and then like quickly put him back down and like half the table saw his cards or something. Do you like, if you have a hand that normally wouldn't call the river, but you see you could beat his hand?
Do you then fold?
Fold?
That's a good question. I bet some people would say they would fold. They would do what they would normally do, independent of if they saw that person's hand or not, I guess.
I feel there is like very, very little. Obviously, this one 9-3 offsuit is, but like anything you're post flop, at least the way most situations happen, there's little that like you always do.
Right.
Like everything is on like a range or a balance otherwise. And the other thing I think for ethics and moral in poker is creating a set of rules that are very easy to be equally followed by everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't trust that everyone would see my hand and then do the like honorable thing in that spot.
Right.
But I can trust that everyone will say, hey, don't do this in the future. This came up a lot like way back in the day. This was like an old poker argument. If someone internet times out on like a high stake heads up sit and go, do you blind them out and take the money, or do you like take the money and then ship it back to them? This would be like a very old argument discussed on like
Right.
what's the moral or ethical thing to do. And people would say that, oh, you know, of course you got to give their money back and hope the money comes back to you. But in my opinion, that's actually not the ethical or correct way to do this, because now you've created a system where you're hoping and relying on like a stranger to do the right thing with you.
Right.
And what I had always done, and I'm not saying it's correct, but I think it is that if I knew the name of the person, I would give them their money back, assuming they would do the same to me. But if it was a complete random, I wouldn't, because
Right.
I know a complete random wouldn't have the way to give it back to me.
I would approach that same way too. If I know the person and I have something with that person where I'm confident they would, that I would. But if it's a random person, I mean,
And honestly, it's fair in that way, because that's going to happen to you too.
right,
And
exactly.
especially
So you're
on
gonna send it back
internet
to
poker,
you?
like,
I mean, that's
every single person I know has a story of like an internet timeout for like a massive pot that has cost them like $1 gazillion. Like if you've played enough internet poker back in the day, I feel everyone has a story where that has happened to them.
right.
And like it's just an awkward but like fair thing that in theory will all come around.
Yeah, I got nothing
against.
nothing against somebody also who says they give it back. Like, great. Everyone has their own approach to it. I don't think it makes you any better than anybody else because you're gonna always pay somebody back. Or I think in this situation that seems like a perfectly fine approach to take. Is if you knew the person, okay. If not, I mean, that's how things go. They're not going to get back to you, and yeah, that makes sense too. But obviously, people not always going to agree with that, and people want to sound righteous a lot of situations, and maybe they would do it, or maybe they wouldn't do it. And so it's.
But it's also about like protecting yourself. Also, you have to do both what you feel. You have to do both what you feel comfortable with, and what you know will happen back to you. So it's very different. Also, like if you're in a tournament with like a ton of random people versus if you're in your regular cash game with the same people you see every day.
Right, yeah.
Like in my cash game, we give everything back in all spots always because we know that that is the universal rule. And in fact, there's one guy that doesn't, that like will shoot every angle and go for it. And we all know this. And with him, no one gives him anything back. And it just is what it is. Like we create like levels of reciprocity based on what we expect to have happen for
Interesting.
us.
So this guy that does this, that goes by this, can you turn down the air? Yeah, this is a little cold, a little chilly in here. So this guy that goes by the angle shooting kind of way, how is he approached differently? Like, what are you looking at? Are you extra looking out for things? Because I think people we deal with, like the people that are trying to.
Like this guy, if he like accidentally puts in a raise when he says he meant to call, we would not give it to him and say, okay, you can call, because he is a guy that has purposely done that to all of us before, where he's like, oh, you put in too many chips, I'm forcing you to raise. So it's all about just like finding equality, basically, which I think is the fairest way to go about ethics in these spots.
Got my man Big Back Berkey out there. He says, solve for why I think this game regarding evolution of trust is relevant to this conversation. Kind of makes sense. I'm not really sure what you mean by that, Matt.
Yeah.
Please expand my young friend out there.
I assume it's more just like, you know, as you get to know people better and you can trust them, then that lets you let yourself be quote unquote taken advantage of, because you know you won't. Which is why as you know people, you can be trusting to them, knowing they'll be trusting back. But the less you know someone, the more you have to assume the worst to make everything equal out.
What other questions Angela Miko have on this list? Biggest cash game winner? I don't know about that. Is that a question for people? I feel like people are not very open to talk about things like that, like wins and loss, biggest cash game winner. Like they don't really want to talk about who the biggest winners are.
That's
even like power rankings. Oftentimes, most people don't want to do power rankings necessarily.
Yeah. Well,
whereas some people love doing power rankings.
I feel anyone that actually is playing the biggest games and cares about it, that's not a thing they could ever really do honestly, because it's too much of a glimpse into your own mind and perception.
Right.
And it's like directly affecting your livelihood at this point in a way that even like talking strategy wouldn't. Like if I were to rank like 1 through 20, the 20 people, how I think they are, like that can massively change both how people play against me and the choices other people might take and what games they do or don't play.
Right.
Like the only thing a poker game needs to run is to have, you know, everyone sitting at the table want to be there. But if like you have 8 people there that are all trying to win and they all know the exact order 1 through 8 that they are, then 8th is like, oh shit, I'm 8th best here, I can't play. They quit, and then 7th is like, oh shit, I'm 7th best, now I can't play because 8th quit, and so on and so forth. So you kind of can really get into like power rankings, I feel.
Oh yeah, I mean I think that makes sense. Even though we love power rankings.
Oh, love them, of course.
I love all rankings. I don't know.
Yeah, obviously.
I love them.
All top 10 lists, they're the most fun. They work. They're just like great little like marketing gimmicks that get me every time.
Yeah. We got my man Lucky Chewy in the chat. What's up, brother? He said, Scott has taught me many great lessons, but the greatest for sure is that we're all mayors of Hangoutsville.
First of all, big shout out to Chewy. Greatest guy there is. And it's true, we are all the mayor of Hangoutsville.
Can we explain what this means, please?
Just a concept me and my friends were joking about, and now we use as like a thing to talk about this, that the number one thing I feel that like keeps friends from hanging out or like doing things you like, especially as you get older, is no one does the impetus. Everyone like is like, oh man, I really wish I could see that person. I want to do that. But no one ever thinks to pick up the phone or be like, hey, let's get dinner, or hey, let's like do a camping trip. And you'll think like, oh man, I really wish we did this thing. And I feel there's like a huge block on us to like be the person to take the action. So we talk about being the mayor of Hangoutsville, that like we have a large group.
I gotta copy this in my notepad real quick, Andrew.
Yeah, we have like a large group of friends, and like there's like some that are more outgoing than others, and you might be like, oh, I hope like this really like extroverted outgoing person crafts this like fun thing for all of us to do. But no, like we've been trying to like beat the concept that like anyone can create like a fun, great thing for people to do, and you just do it. If you put it out into the universe, it happens. So we've been a lot more about like intention, saying, oh, I want like a group of us to do this fun activity, like, oh, let's go whitewater rafting. Okay, set a date, find a date, send a couple texts, make it happen. So we've all been about like us being accountable for our own fun.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And it's gone really, really well. We do a lot more activities, and now, like I said, I have like 10 trips planned the next few months.
So you have a lot of trips planned.
Yeah, that like a different friend was like, oh man, I really want to go to Austin for this music festival. Okay, I'm in. Someone else was like, oh, I want to go to Mexico City and like rent a ranch and just like hang out for a bit. I'm like, oh, that sounds fucking great. Let's go to a ranch in Mexico for like a week. And someone else is like, hey, I want to.
Who's got the ranch in Mexico? What's his name? Lynn's husband. Yeah, Angel. I met him this summer.
Oh, he's a great guy.
Yeah, I like that kid a lot, man.
Yeah.
He's down in Mexico City streets pretty hard, man.
But yeah, things like that. Like someone comes up with an idea, they're like, hey, let's do it. We're all the mayor of Hangoutsville.
I love that concept, man.
Yeah. Also, every concept or everything Lucky Chewy says, greatest thing in the world. He's just the best.
We did write a book, The Yoga of Poker, I believe was the title. So I mean, listen.
Exactly.
Man.
Chewy knows what's up. When he says something, people need to listen.
We talk about. I see people mention about the Doug. Yeah, so Doug obviously puts you in a lot of the videos. I posted that clip yesterday where he edited like a comment you made to him during a tournament on ESPN or something like that, and then put the laughing. The laugh track behind it. So what's your history with young Douglas Polk?
Doug and I, from years back, always had a bunch of beef. We just really clashed personalities. He and I would get into it. He would like say some shit, or I would say some shit. Like, I'm a big pot stirrer, and he's someone that like is very, very good and very funny at dishing shit out, but he's very bad at taking it, which is like a pretty volatile combination. And I'm fairly similar myself, which is also not good. So we've had like random beefs in the past, whatever, but like buried that hatchet a long time ago. Like, whatever, it's fine. I'm totally cool with Doug, and like he makes funny shit. It's totally fine by me. And like, I don't know, I view him as he's an entertainer. He's searching for content. He's searching for views, and he's doing his thing. And like, it's a shtick, but like, it's his shtick and he's really good at it. Like, and like some of his, edits are just pretty undeniably hilarious. So like, whatever, it kind of all rolls off my back.
The one I posted, you got an Emmy for a comment like this is so hysterical.
Yeah. But that's also what I'm saying when people like see like an edited broadcast on ESPN where like I'm saying one random like snarky comment to Doug.
I think your comment was pretty funny too. I mean, make a great play. You get a good reaction from people. I think that's a pretty fair thing to say as well too.
For sure.
Yeah.
And like it's just like I have a attacking sense of humor, we'll say, where like I have like the snark and I'll search for things and I'm okay with that and it's fine. But like, obviously anything can be taken out of context. But
that's
like,
true.
Shit, if people saw like our Bobby's Room games, like the conversations there, like everyone is fucking savage to each other. Like you need a thick skin or you will just be crying at the table every day.
I want to see some of these games. Who else is in these games? Who's like the regulars in these games? I think we got Gus, Nick.
We got like Gus, Nick,
yourself,
me, Hollywood Haxton.
Okay.
True Teller when he's in town. You have
Jungle
when he's in town.
Okay.
Angry John. Bunch of
I
characters.
met that guy this summer.
Angry John, an all-time
That's
character.
a legend, bro. Oh my god.
David Oppenheim, an all-time character. You just have some like real complete psychopaths. Like I am a total psychopath, and I'm like middle of the road in Bobby's Room.
I think I met this guy, Angry John. I met him at a party, and I went up to. I wasn't sure who he was. Like, oh, like what's your name? He's like, you don't know who I am, kid. He's like, ask around. I was like, okay. I was like, okay.
That is fucking hilarious. Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, okay.
Everyone is just
perfect.
A complete and utter psychopath.
Yeah.
Even the like really
hilarious.
nice guys that are like very centered and calm that you think are like totally fine are also psychopaths when they enter Bobby's Room. Like Hollywood's the greatest example for this. Like you become a psychopath when you're surrounded by psychosis all day.
Okay.
Like it just seeps into your system and there's no escaping it. Like,
are you sure?
I'm pretty sure. My man Chris Krug here, he was talking about this all summer, that every single day he played, he just felt himself growing crazier and crazier.
Okay.
And like found himself like being more of a psycho. And this was like an incredibly centered kid at the start of the summer that also just close to off the rails by the end.
I could see Chris getting off the rails for sure. Yeah, I could see that,
everyone is off the rails. That's like part of the fight in Bobby's Room, that everyone is coming for you mentally and emotionally too. People are searching for your deepest fears and bringing them up at all times. Like there's just a bunch of ruthless savages there. It is insane.
I see Teo G talking about better focus. So I have a new camera that I'm trying out for today, and I'm also buying a better camera, an HD one or something like 4K type of camera for the podcast. So we're working at this kind of stuff right here, and trust me, if it was that easy where I could learn how to unfocus this goddamn microphone and make it focus on my head, believe me, I would definitely do it. And I've spent many, many time trying to fucking figure this thing out. So yeah, it is what it is. So one day my content will look fucking A1 fire, and then we're going straight to the top of the podcast ranking. So that's what it is, man. We're getting out there. We're hopping in the mainstream podcast streets out there one day, and we're gonna get to action, man. We're gonna get the
one day soon.
Maybe we'll see.
We're making moves.
Thing is, I still want to do poker podcasts. I love talking with people in poker. Love it.
It's a passion project. But
yeah.
I mean, but you can see now how you branch. You see you're in the fighting game here and now, and you see the views you can get. Like
there's interest. People are interested in it. It seems like.
Yeah.
They want to hear about these things. They want to hear about different topics.
But you're also really good at telling a story. Like there's a lot of information out there, and people have all the information, but you assimilate it and you put it all together to tell one like cohesive story.
Right.
People look for that on the internet instead of just having like the little blurb or like reading 5 different articles. They want to watch a video about this cool event that they know about, that they've heard of, and to have it broken down in its entirety. And you seem to be a specialist at that. I see big things for the Poppy future.
That's interesting you say that, and I've thought that myself, but I guess I've never thought about what makes me good at those investigative breakdowns like that. But that's an interesting point about that.
It's telling the story, and having everything in one place for it.
Yeah, that's like something I try to always do is I try to tell people something that they maybe didn't know or didn't understand, or put it in a way that they can understand it easily.
It's like being an investigative journalist and then turning it into entertainment.
Right, that's kind of...
Which is like a really nice niche, which like the internet wants.
Or being like an FBI in the FBI and turning the FBI content into entertainment content. Yeah. I actually looked the other day how to apply for the FBI, and I
Stop.
I'm dead. I'm fucking serious.
Okay.
I was like, I feel like I'd be really good at the FBI.
I feel like I'd be really good if I took all their info and leaked it for videos.
Well, I'd be happy to stop making videos if I could be in the FBI. I'd be happy. I think it'd be great. I would love to be in the FBI. FBI, if you're out there, I'd love to join. And I did look at the qualifications. I don't think I match a lot of the qualifications, fortunately, in terms of things you could or could not have done in the past and things like that. So it might be tough with some of the out-of-line activities. But listen, man, I'd love to be in the FBI and just like do the investigations, have the access to that behind-the-scenes data that I don't have from my aggregation strategy and from my communication with other people's strategy.
Yeah.
You know, you get access to different things behind the scenes. So
For
it's but yeah, guys, this camera is a Logitech C920. It does not have a button where you hit focus on TOG. I understand your passion and enthusiasm for this particular topic.
I respect the passion, but
I also do too, but unfortunately, it does not have a button where I press, because trust me, I would press that fucking button, Teo. I would smash that button.
Yeah.
Just like
the like button.
Just like you guys should smash the like button right now. I need you to pick that like button up by the throat and choke slam that bad boy to the ground right now. If you're enjoying hearing Scott here on the podcast, the man's got stories. The man is willing to express himself. The man is willing to talk about different things, and the man has a lot of great perspective on the poker world and on life that we get to rarely see in the poker world, which is one of the biggest reasons why have that success at poker, right?
Yeah.
What are your hopes for the future for yourself, brother? What do you got for your? Do you see any tangible sort of goal or anything like that you're setting out for yourself right now and saying that's a benchmark that I'd like to get to?
I've been a lot less good at this than most people. I'm very much a live in the moment, live in the now, have blinders on. Things are working, don't change it. Like, nebulous like future goals I have is like finding a better balance with poker and like life that I want in the future, because like it's tough for me to picture like when I'm in like my 50s, say like what I want my life to look like, and therefore I need to like try and get some grasp of what I want my future to look like to push for it.
Right.
But just like even over the past year or two, I feel like every year is like an evolution where I change as a person, I find the things that make me happier, and I find a way to interweave poker to still be a part of them, which is great because like we were saying earlier, unlike other people, I still fucking love the game. Like it is the best, it is my favorite. I like, when I'm playing, it's just like my favorite thing to do.
So it sounds like you have some steps to take there. So if your idea is, okay, I find balance in the future, as you said, just deciding, okay, well, what does that balanced life mean? Yeah. Is that more family? Is that more travel? Is this more activity? Is this more whatever that is, more entrepreneurship? And then figuring out, okay, how can I set these sub goals to get to that point in the meantime?
Yeah. A lot of it is about leaving poker at the table, which is something I've gotten like much, much better at.
Yeah.
Like it used to be for me, like I would have like a big loss and like my next like 24 hours were like, do not speak to me, I'm not leaving my room, I don't exist to the world. And I've been like really working on like think about poker when I'm playing poker, and when I'm not there, just let that shit go, which I've been like a lot better on. I'm not like agonizing over hands, I'm not like thinking about shit, I'm playing and I'm living my life.
That takes years.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It takes years to be able to do something like that, man. That's
I've
great.
been playing for like 12, 13 years now. It's just started about a year ago. So, yeah.
Fucking wild how long that specific quality takes in a person.
Oh, God,
because some people still, you can't be around them for a day if they have a losing session.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I know some recreational players, too. You can't. They might say the worst thing ever to the people that are close to them, and they might ruin a relationship for the long term because of something that they say due to losing during a poker session, man. And there's a lot of people out there, I'm sure, watching right now. We just described them, right? They go to the casino, they go play some 2-5, they get sucked out with kings to aces, they go home, they're a fucking asshole to their wife, to their friends, to their family. They're not focused on what it is they got to do.
You got to leave your work at the office. That's just like I feel like a number one key to like a happy life, no matter what your job is. And like poker is a lot more emotionally volatile than most jobs, so it matters even more for that one. You just can't bring that shit home with you.
It's tough, man. It's tough not to be tough not to be results or like see your results for your work and say like, well, everything else is great, sort of thing like that.
Oh but, yeah. Don't worry. When I'm saying this, I'm not like centered now. Now it's just like it takes 3 losing days in a row to get me instead of 1. That's all. But I don't know. I've also been a person that has had like the highest of highs and lowest of lows in like my career. So I feel that's helped me like try and take these swings more. Like I had a time early in my career in like end of 07, early 08, where I was playing 501k online, lost everything, and went the next day to 25 cent, 50 cent to like start grinding it back. So like I don't know. I feel like
online. How much money did you have online at the time?
Like maybe I went from like 800k to $1 million, something like that, down to like a net worth of like 2k.
In one day?
No, but over the course of like a month.
Okay.
Like a very short time. And it was just like, okay, time to hit those 25 cent, 50 cent streets and grind it all back.
So at what point in time do you drop down? How much do you have? And
back then I was so much more aggressive with this shit because like when you're young and you don't have like bills or dependents or other people relying on you, it's easy to just like really gamble hard. And when you knew there were such soft games at the lowest stakes that I felt comfortable I was winning it back, I could like always take like really big shots. Like the thing I would told myself back then is I would always need like 20 buy-ins to play a game. So like I like first played 25-50 like when I got 100k. And one of the very first sessions I ever played at 25-50, I ended up losing like 35-40k, like just like half my net worth. Phil Galfond talked about this. He made like a tweet about this like a week ago about similar things he's done. And I feel that there was just like a level of all of us playing internet poker at this time that we're all doing the same things. We were all just like degenning the hardest shots we could take because it felt like it was a free roll. Like if we lost, we just moved down and try again. So like we were just all being so wildly irresponsible back then. But it was fun.
At what point do you, at 501k, at what point do you go down to, I see you progressively dropping lower in stakes to get to 25-50 cent, right?
In theory.
In theory.
This I wasn't really. There was like a stretch of games where that were like defining games on the internet back then. The Rail Heaven games that went around Guy and like 10, 15 people were like regulars in these games, and like half the people made like $1 gazillion and half the people like lost $1 gazillion and like started from scratch, and like everyone basically just kept playing until like there were the haves and the have-nots. Like Andrew Roble and Tom Dwan like crushed these games for everything, and this like catapulted them to like really big stakes stardom very fast. And like me and Sauce and others got like
Sauce, remember that? Yeah,
completely torched in these games and had to like restart over, which then like delayed everything by a bit.
So how long did you have to go back down to 25 cent, 50 cent before you moved up to get back up to 1, 2, 2, 4, 3? Like pretty quickly?
It was actually like insanely fast. So it was like the luckiest thing ever, probably. I went from 25 cent, 50 cent back to like 25.50 in like just under 2 months.
Okay. So you pretty much grinded every single day?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe even like 6 weeks.
And you were only playing heads up at the time?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I played.
So much action kind of going on that...
Yeah. But like I was always like very cocky and arrogant with my heads up game back then, just because like the competition was so much worse. Now it's unbelievable how great the best guys are and how great even like the only good guys were.
Right.
But like back then, like when most people hadn't even heard of like Poker Tracker, let alone anything else, like the games were just unbelievable.
I know, man. It's crazy, right?
I remember so distinctly when I was coming up and right when I was going to play 25-50. 25-50 was the first stakes where everyone sat in the lobby waiting for action. Below then, just everyone was playing and whatever. 25-50, you would have each person sitting. And I remember making a list of like the 20 regs that would sit every day. And I would watch them and I ranked them from best to worst in my mind. And I played them one at a time in reverse order So when I crushed the worst one, it wasn't like an alarm bell to the others. It was like, oh, he beat this guy. Oh, well, whatever. I'm way better than this guy. I'm sure I could still beat Scott, et cetera, et cetera. So I ranked them all and then played them like you would like a video game, like rising up the levels. And I played each one in the order I put them.
That's some next level shit right there, brother. That is some next level. That's not even next level. That's like 3 levels up.
Well, yeah, if like
because you don't want to scare action away from other people.
2550 has 20 people sitting, and there's one guy that's the consensus best. If you go and just smash him right away, you can't get the action from anyone else.
That's a great idea. I mean, that's a great idea right there. There's some people out there taking note. Maybe that idea right there.
Watch them, rank them, play in order, so you don't scare people off.
It's a good point about maybe being known as too good in some ways, where you don't get action anymore, right? Or known now as a real-time software player, allegedly.
Which is another thing about like my career that I've always considered very lucky that I like, is that I pretty much made a living my entire career only playing other pros. Like I always just played professional poker players to like move up and like make my living. I could get the most action. I never liked the politics of like being nice to a person you like didn't want to be nice to just to try and get in good games. Mm-hmm. And like I consider myself lucky and blessed that this was an option I was able to take. But it's really helped me enjoy poker and feel better about poker when everyone I've always played is either a pro, or nowadays everyone that isn't a pro is so well off that like losing is less than a drop in the bucket to them, and it means just absolutely nothing.
It's a very fascinating approach to take because it's very uncommon, obviously. Yeah. Most people don't, they see it as they want to make money, and they'll make money by playing against weaker players. You sort of saw it as, I want to avoid that, so I am going to make my primary focus just getting good enough at the game to be able to beat these other professionals, and I'm not going to stop until I do that.
You get better faster. Just when you play better players, you get better at poker.
Yeah, 100%.
And I always had a dream, even when I was first starting at the lowest stakes, that like this is just a means to an end. Mm-hmm. Like one day down the line, I want to be a great player. So I don't really care about making money now. I care about learning as fast as I can and getting good as fast as I can, and that meant playing better and better players. Mm-hmm. Like it was like amazing to get to be able to play great players, and like I used money just as an ability to afford to be able to play great players.
So you're not saying though that, because I think some people out there are gonna take this information and say, well, he never played against weaker players. You've obviously played against plenty of weaker players, because there'd be times maybe your confidence wasn't there, you need to make some money. They're
obviously I just meant like the long term goal.
The long term approach in your mind. But some people are going to take that actually literally and say, well, I shouldn't play against weaker players too. And they don't understand that idea of you mix it in. You mix in the battling against these great players after you
have to overcome your fears of the better players is what it is. You have to be willing to push yourself and test yourself, and then be willing to step back if it doesn't work. But you always have to go up against the edge, because if you never push the boundaries of your own skill, you'll never find where the limit is. Mm-hmm. So you have to go up against that edge, up against the wall, to find out truly how great you can be. And I don't know, in a sport, game, whatever you want to call poker, I feel you owe it to yourself to find out how great you could be, because otherwise you don't know what your potential ever was.
Yeah. I think this is very relevant to my young 20-year-old apprentice Landon in the chat, who constantly is the most impatient kid I've talked to, but very, very hungry, wants to become the best in the world. So he's coming for you, Scott.
Nice.
20-year-old down in Florida right now, and we talk about these sorts of things a lot, and I think he's going to hear that. And that question was for him. I specifically asked it because in his mind he's going to say, "Well, I'm doing it right," but you got to understand, you also need to make some money along the way too. So you need to sort of build up into that point and
like. I absolutely love these things. I'm not going to say a name because I'm sure it'd be fine, but I don't want to blow up anyone's spot. A kid that did extremely well at the World Series this year that I don't know at all sent me a DM on Twitter after the series. He was like, "Hey man, I want you to know I'm a big fan. I've always thought you're awesome, but now that I have this money, I'm going to teach myself mixed games, and in like 6 months or so, you're going to see me in the streets, and in 1 year, we're going to be playing in Bobby's room, just so you know, like, I've got the fire, and I'm coming for you guys." And I thought that was awesome. Like, I actually respect the hell out of that. Someone's like, "Hey, man, I just, got a break and I'm going to be using this to take a shot because I got to prove to myself to see what I'm capable of, I'll see you in a year. I don't know.
You gotta figure out who this was.
I just think that's like complete fire. You need that kind of big energy to have the chance even to make it to the top, I feel.
Can you see how some people would take that such the other way?
Yeah, but I'm
would...
probably saying it wrong because from reading it, it was all just like awesome. It was like I'm going to use this to like study and play smaller games and then play slightly bigger and bigger games, and you're gonna see me. I'm gonna be like sitting side by side with you in a year.
That's awesome.
And I was like, that's the kind of fire you need, I feel, to have a chance to make it. You need to like truly believe and then truly push yourself.
Wow. I'm going to find out who this guy is after the podcast is over. But I like his style, man.
Yeah.
I like his approach. One question earlier I thought was interesting, and I'm curious now, is the idea of the breakthrough. What do you feel like there was a certain point in your career that you had a big breakthrough, whether it's a session or it's a mindset thing or it's a strategy adjustment or something of that nature?
I would say the big like breakthrough for me in where my career has become was like the start of mixed games when they started, because like the reason I did them was heads up action was like dying for me. Now obviously I could get whatever I want because I'm garbage compared to the good players, but you know, back then I couldn't get any action anymore, and there was this whole new like path to play, and it was just like fun, refreshing, and revitalizing, and I was getting a ton of action again, and it just felt so good to throw myself into something new.
Yeah.
That I feel that if you're ever in a rut with whatever game you're playing or stakes you're playing, if you're doing the same thing too often, take some of your time, take a couple of hours of your work week, try a different game, try something. If you're, say, like a 5-10 no limit player, one day a week, play some 1-3 great game PLO. Do something. Stretch different mental muscles than you normally do. You'll find the game is fresher, and maybe you'll have a secret aptitude for something you never knew. I think like the worst thing you can do is just say, I am this player, this is who I am, and be defined by that for long stretches. Like, I'm a 5-10 live no limit player. It's what I do. Like, I don't think that's the right outlook to make poker your full job, because you're going to get burnt out too fast. Like, you need to vary things up and try things. Again, even if it's one day a week, even if it's like a few hours here and there, just try something new.
You could probably apply this to life in general, whether it's working out or food or an activity or anything like that. If you feel like you're in a rut with what you're doing, stepping outside of that and trying something else.
Exactly. It's all about breaking your comfort zone.
So I guess that might be a better way to say it, is to kind of get outside the comfort zone, which in a way, I guess we're being more specific as an example for somebody to follow, because a common cliche is to get outside your comfort zone. But then when you really try to break that down, people can't necessarily understand it.
Exactly.
So you're giving it a poker specific context that someone could try. And
yeah.
I think that's a very good idea too, especially the one where the no limit hold'em player goes and tries the great game of Pot Limit Omaha. I mean, listen, you're going to find out it's a beautiful game. Plus, you might say, like, well, this game's trash. I fucking hate it. And I'm great at Hold'em. I'm going to go back. It's more exciting.
And that's something beautiful about the mixed games. We play, like, 15 different games. And there's something, like, beautiful about all of them. Like, there's something just beautiful about the concept of poker. And you see it weave through all the games in a way that you don't see until you play a ton of them. Even people that just play No Limit and PLO. I think it's hard to see the similarities between all the games of poker until you're playing something as very different as like Pot Limit Omaha and like Limit Stud, and then when you see the similarities between these, it's a beautiful thing, and it's like a real eye-opening thing, and then you're able to take lessons you learn from one game and apply them to another game, and that's like really when your game gets to the next level, I feel.
Yeah, I guess it would be nicer for the mixed games if there was a more of a stepping stones to get to that point. Because I think a lot of people would aspire to get into get into the games, but it's just, where do they go play? How do they start?
There's a good set of stepping stones for almost all limits, just not like the highest, like nosebleed. Like here in Vegas, there's like a regular 6-12 limit, which is say about the same as like 1-2, 1-3 no limit. That goes like every day. Then there's like some 20-40 and 40-80.
Does it just like mixed games too?
Usually, but maybe like 4 or 5 game mixes. But then when you get to like 80, 160, and 2 and 400, those are games that go very regularly, which is like 10, 20, 25, 50 no limit, and now you're up to like 10 plus games. So once you're at the like equivalent to like 10, 20 no limit, there's stepping stones of games, but it's just harder at the lowest stakes.
Where's the 6-12 game at? Is that Orleans or is that Bellagio? Or?
There's one at Orleans. There's one at Aria that I know goes, I think, almost every day.
Okay. Sounds pretty fun. I've never played.
Also, they use like $3 chips, which I didn't even know existed. So it's pretty cool to see just like stacks of $3 chips.
Imagine losing that $1.7 million pot in $3 chips.
Jesus.
Would be good. And they're like 1/16 or something.
Yeah.
It's like a Black Mirror episode right there. It's a Black Mirror poker edition right there. Eugene Green. Jesus Christ. I mean, I just can't get over this. Give me some shout outs to people in chat. Who we got out there, man? We got my man Gus in the chat. Gus been showing up for a long time, many years. Gus, what's happening, brother? Hope it's going well out there. Randy Reyes, what's up, Randy? What's happening, Poppy? Conor McGregor, is that the real Irishman himself?
It's got to be the real one.
Conor McGregor,
big fan of the video. It's been following your content ever since.
Ever since I made that video about him, and all the comments are all anti Conor McGregor. You decided to be a fan of the channel. I appreciate that. Shout out to Conor McGregor, Dean Nelson out there. Blake Bronstein leaving some of the weirdest comments of all time, but it is what it is. My man Mike just goes by Mike in the chat. Joseph Zona, what's up, Joseph? What's happening, man? Gus, will you play mixed games with me, Joey? Sure, why not? I'll try them out. Yeah,
Poppy, you gotta try them out, man.
I will try them out. I've just never.
There are some real fun games in there.
Are there?
And some real interesting things. Like one of the things I like the most personally for mixed games in general is the stud games. Are games that I think are actually more interesting the more players at the table.
Okay.
Which is not true of any other poker game in my mind. Like in my mind, like the great game is best like 2, 3, or 4 handed. You're playing 8, 9 handed. A lot of this shit is just stupid and like a waste of time, to be honest. And the hands no longer become interesting. That's true of almost every game because the more people, the tighter you have to be at the beginning.
Right.
In stud though, because everyone is anteing each person, there's actually more money in the pot the more people at the table. So you're actually looser the more people that are playing because there's more money to win. And that gets then counterbalanced by you have to be a little tighter because there's more people. And so it actually like makes interesting different dynamics. Like, because you can always only raise the same amount in limit. Like, say you can only always raise to 200 as your first raise. If there's 100, 200, 300, or 400 in the middle to start, obviously then you're playing different ranges, different hands. So you actually get like much more aggressive and interesting concepts that happen the more people at the table. And it's just pretty fucking cool that a game of poker was invented that actually makes like the game be more aggressive the more people at the table.
So then the other players are aware of this as well too then?
Exactly, which then makes...
This is stud 8 or stud high?
Or
both?
Any stud game.
Any stud game,
because
okay.
any stud game, everyone is putting money in themselves and anteing, so then everyone has to be a little bit wider than they would be if there's few people. Like stud heads up is actually very tight because there's not much money compared to where there would be otherwise.
That makes sense.
So it's just cool that there are games that like take the most basic concept where like the most basic concept of the more people there are, the tighter you have to be, and flips it on its head.
So maybe in stud, if short-handed, you would just fold some hands that would be raises.
That would be raises
in a
if
different
there
situation.
had been more people.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Whereas in Hold'em, that's obviously not the case.
Exactly.
It's the very opposite of that.
That's what I'm saying. That's why it's
Fascinating,
cool that there are games that can be so different that they take our most basic concepts and throw them out the window.
You have a hand example here? Would there be like an up card showing in stud, for example, where heads up you might just fold it, but in ring you'd open it?
Well, it's more like when there's an up card, like Raz is an easier example for this because like if someone has like a bunch of face cards, like if someone has a face card showing, it's a bad card, they're not going to play the hand. So you can be like, okay, there are like 4 non-face cards here, so normally I would raise like 25% of hands into 4 non-face cards, but because we were 8-handed at the start of this hand, now I get to raise 35% of hands because there's more to steal. And so now in an 8-handed game, I'm opening 35% instead of 20, which means the next person is like re-raising 30 instead of like 22, and so on.
So that person has to then figure out how loose is he going to open with his cards that are down right here and where I can potentially play back.
Now I need to be looser because of
Right.
that.
So even though I have a jack or a queen showing, that still might mean I still might want to play.
Exactly.
So,
And you'll see that all the time now,
right.
where in bigger spots like this, where someone has like an automatic steal, you'll call it, people are going to play really bad hands when you're in a full game.
And that's where kind of maybe the edges are going to come into play too, because obviously certain players are more comfortable with those uncomfortable ranges as well too. Yeah. So even you as the person who's raising there, let's say you have the 9 showing and you have queen, king, I don't know if that'd be even a hand you'd steal with potentially. Yeah. Maybe it might be. But like, you sort of understand.
In No Limit Hold'em, when it's folded to you in the cutoff, is almost the exact same as if you're just playing a 4-handed game and you're first on the cutoff. Like there's very, very, very small card removal of people folding bad cards, but pretty much you play the same hands from the cutoff no matter what. Same in like the great game. Like you have your button range that you would open when folded to. That's pretty much the same no matter how many people folded to. This is your button range in PLO. But in stud games, it's completely different. It's like, okay, if it's folded to me with 2 people to act, I'm going to play this many hands if we were 4-handed, this many hands if we're 5-handed, this many hands if we're 6-handed. So it's like much, much more complicated. There's also something beautiful about the stud games in that the solvers basically cannot mess with them at all.
Really?
Like they're close to untouchable. There are so many combinations of just starting hand possible that it blows like the great game out of the water in terms of like probabilities, let alone Hold'em. Like there are just so many combinations of what an up card is, what the down cards were, what the next card comes, because there's no community cards. Like, you know, a flop is just a flop. There's only so many types of flops. But when every single person gets their own individual card, there are like a gazillion combinations. So it's also a beautiful game because everyone's out here just guessing. You're just playing by feel and instinct and doing what you think is right.
You better hope my man Libertarius isn't watching this right now. He might say, "Oh, no, I can't touch it." Okay,
Yeah.
The creators out there are going to get excited.
But it's still fine with all this stuff because, again, at the end of the day, in the live streets, it doesn't really matter. Like, again, I saw Nick say this comment too, and it's so true. Like, chess, the best chess players are so much better than the best computer players are so much better than the best human players by like a laughably huge margin. But chess is still an unbelievably beautiful game, and you can watch the best in the world go at it, and it's amazing. And these guys like Magnus and Caruana, they're spending 18, 20 hours a day studying this shit, and it still has little to nothing to do with the amazing concept that comes out when they play a game, just because it's too vast to even think about. And that's true in poker too, with the good variants of poker. And that's something really nice in the mixed games, that we can like judge a game based on how complicated or not it is and play only the complicated ones.
So then when you decide a game is too easy,
we just don't really play it. Like there's a lot of games that in the Bobby's Room mix that we think are like kind of silly that they play at like lower stakes games.
What are those games?
There's a bunch of like the draw games. There's like the Badusi, the Badasi. There's like Razdusi. There's all these weird split pot games that people have like invented and come up with that we pretty much never play in our game, mostly because of these reasons, that like they're just not complicated enough, so they wouldn't be fun to like have to think about on the fly.
What happens when a new player wants to come into Bobby's Room who has the money to play? That's a recreational player, for example, but are they just like, let's hop in these new games, or do they have experience? Because it seems like the barrier to entry would be incredibly high. Like, do they say like, let's take out some games?
The barrier is very high. That's one of the reasons we try not to play very crazy games. We keep like a standard mix, and our mix has been pretty much the same for like the last 3 years.
You took the sticker off? What?
Wow.
You not give in to that guy? Are you fucking joking me right now? Did he pay you? That guy was offering money.
He offered to Venmo $20 if I took the sticker off.
He said he was going to pay him $20 if he took the sticker off. Did you really take the sticker off?
Wow, demand the Venmo.
This is crazy. I blocked that guy too. This is
this is
like some
real backstab right here.
What the fuck is this, man? Landon wanted to take the sticker off. My God, this is crazy. I can't believe
that is brutal.
Wow.
I'm sorry, Joey.
Continue on with your thought.
But like,
let me take this in.
Yeah, when someone comes to play, like it'll depend on the situation. Very often they'll just jump in. Sometimes they'll be like, "Hey, I've never played this like 1 or 2 games before," and like based on who's playing or what our game is, we'll either accommodate or not. But honestly, like we have a set thing here, and it's usually worth it for people to want to come, to want to play with the group, to just learn it and get in there.
Jungle Man stories. We have any of those?
There are literally millions of Jungle Man stories.
Got one, huh?
I just can't even like fathom, like away from the table, at the table. The guy's a living story maker. One of my favorite like random ones, just because I happen to be there for this, and this is nothing in the scheme of Jungle Man stories, but it's just like a really tiny one that I think like encapsulates how crazy the dude is. Jungle Man loves ice cream more than anyone on earth loves anything.
Okay.
He will talk about ice cream at a level that you cannot imagine. The guy fucking loves ice cream. So anyways, we're doing a filmed poker tournament, the Party Poker Premier League.
Okay.
Years back. We're in Vienna. And it was filmed like 25 minutes away from the hotel where they put us up in. So we're in a car on the way back. The driver, one of the producers from Party Poker, myself, Jungle Man, and Vanessa Selbst. 5 of us are in a car in the streets of Vienna. All of a sudden, Jungle Man screams, "Stop the car! Stop the car!" Screaming. Literally max volume. Car slams on its brakes. Jungle Man jumps out the car. Just jumps out the car. We're like, the fuck is going on here? 5 minutes pass. 6 minutes pass. I'm texting. I'm calling him. He's not answering. We're like, well, what do we do? Like, do we just go? Then like 2 minutes later, after like 8 to 9 minutes, he comes back holding 2 ice cream cones and says, "I saw an ice cream shop." And both ice cream cones were for him. Vanessa asked if she could have. He's like, "No, these are mine." Just like something like that is like such a quintessential Jungle Man thing that like it's tough to really explain if you haven't like seen it firsthand or interacted with him. The guy's not from planet Earth. But in like the most wonderful.
What's going on in the 8 to 9 minutes in this car when we're alone, or is it the conversation taking place?
Yeah, we're just, like, obviously we're all trying to guess what is going on. We're trying to imagine, but like we know it's Jungle Man, so we know it's going to be something ridiculous, but we don't know what.
How long do we stay in the car?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Are we staying for 30 minutes? Like, is there a time length we stay? Do we leave? Like,
but you have to have some level of responsibility. You can't leave him alone in the streets of Vienna. Like, what could happen to him? You know what I mean?
But, the ice cream in Vienna.
That's what I'm saying. There's some obligation to protect him. Like, we all have to keep the Jungle Man safe.
That's true, man. We do got to protect the Jungle Man.
Yeah. So just something like that. Just classic, great story.
Hey, Angle shot the car ride. Jesus Christ. I shot Thomas Huber in the chat. Huber. Back on the podcast grind, like I said, guys. Gus Hansen coming up next Monday.
Oh God,
I've already.
I cannot.
The thing
wait.
is, I've already.
Honestly,
it's already recorded.
Oh no, I was gonna say I was gonna get in the chat.
It's
for
from
that
the
one.
summer. It's from the summer.
Ah.
Yeah, it's in beginning of July.
Oh man, I'm pumped for that though.
It's actually kind of funny. Let me tell what happened with that podcast though. So, me and Gus were talking. I think it was. We've talked about randomly doing the pod and like stuff on Instagram occasionally and stuff like that. And he's like, "I think it's time we do the pod." I was like, "All right, cool." And I think we try to set it up and we try to get it started. And I think with the first day we tried, it didn't work out. The second day, he's like, "Okay, I'll do the podcast, but it's going to be before a show I'm going to. So I need you to pick up milk, Kahlua, and vodka. I need white."
The man loves White Russians.
Anyway, I'm like, I'll be honest. I've never been requested. I've never had anyone suggest. I was like,
yeah.
Okay.
It's like what he needs in his green room.
Yeah, I was like, okay, whatever, fine. So we go down the store. Me and my buddy Danny has been working with me, and I've never bought. I don't really buy alcohol. I don't really drink a lot anyway. So we're looking around like, what is this stuff? We get it here. We get the alcohol on deck. We set it up out there. He comes in there and he's like, "Why the fuck didn't you tell me not to take the strip?" I'm like, what are you talking?
Oh
like, guys, don't you? He's like, "Didn't tell me there'd be traffic on the strip." I was like, I told you where I live, right? He comes over to the house.
Gus Hansen, a living legend of poker. You should know there's traffic on the strip.
Right, so I'm sitting there like,
that is a ludicrous
you got to be trolling me right now, right? I still think you might even joke with me. I'm not really sure, but I was like, why don't you just put it in the GPS and take off the strip, something that, right? Come up here, we do the podcast. He crushes the podcast. He looks at me after, he goes, "Still motherfucking got it." And he gets up, picks up the glass. He goes, "I'm going to take this with me." I got to fucking take the glass with me.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. These guys are all fucking legends.
I'm sitting there, I'm like, what the fuck? just happened?
Yeah.
So now he's got my glass. He has the top down in his car. He's just drinking the White Russian, I believe, on the way home and going to the. I mean, listen,
it's
man.
actually funny to see in the Bobby's Game group the younger people, and by younger, I'm not like a year younger than me, like my contemporaries and younger. Other than myself, I'm the exception. They're all so centered, so balanced, so like robotic in so many ways. Like, you know, taking this so seriously. Like, you know, you have the Gordos of the world, the
Shout out Mike Gordinsky,
the Matt Ashtons of the world. These like truly elite, great players that are just like nothing can rattle or faze them. But then you have everyone else that's like been in the scene a little longer or started earlier, and we are all complete fucking psychopaths. Like, there is not a normal human over the age of 35.
Jeez.
Like, me or Nick or like Brian Rast or older, like once you're like our age up, all psychopaths to a T, every single one.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. You're in this scene and you're a crazy person.
This Anish, is this your personal assistant? Scott's personal assistant? Is that your personal? You have a
No.
personal assistant named Anish? What is Scott?
No.
What is Anish talking about in there?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. I don't know either. Hi, Miko. I am Scott's personal assistant.
Nope.
I don't know anymore. He never knows in the fucking chat list. I don't know. Could be Scotty Wynn. Could be Scott.
Yeah.
Who knows who exactly could be up there, man?
Shout out Anish. Can you do some things for me? Have some laundry. You can
need
get
some.
it for
Yeah,
me right now.
you need a PA or something like that in your life out there.
Get
You
on that
hiring?
PA grind.
Yeah. Scott and Justin and Ike are the real legends. Okay. Let's get a couple more questions out there, guys, and then we'll wrap things up here. Been going for a little while out here. Where are you going to next? You're going to Austin next, or is there New York City next, or where?
Yeah, I'm going to Austin in
Austin
a few
next.
weeks. Yeah.
Austin, a few weeks for the festival. Who are you excited to see? Is there what kind of music do you prefer?
Honestly, everything. When I'm at live concerts, it's different for what I like more than what I'm looking for normally. Though, like I like the big energy, big shows, like anything with like a lot of people. Bands I'm most looking forward to that I'm going to get to see are The Strokes, which I'm hoping will be awesome. One of my like all-time favorite like indie rock bands from back in the day. Franz Ferdinand, all the like big like alt rock groups that I feel like know how to put on like giant shows. Like best show I've ever seen was Radiohead by far. Just like performers that understand that like music is only like part of what the like experience is.
Right, but they
they're
put
putting
on a show.
a giant fucking show too.
Right.
Like
with the
those
lights, with the sound, with the dancing, with all that kind of stuff like that.
Exactly. Like those are always like the best sets.
Okay, actually, I want to ask you about this too, because
Yeah.
last night I went down a Red Hot Chili Peppers Californication rabbit hole.
Nice.
So I've never listened to this song, the actual lyrics before, and I came across a post last night, one of my favorite Reddit subreddits, and it said, "Have you ever listened to the song Californication?" And I was like, "No." I thought it was like this great song about like going to California, like having a good time. Like, fuck, this sounds great. I want to go to California.
Yeah.
And then I moved to California and I turned 23, and then I listened to it. Turns out it's not what it's about. I was like, wait a second. And I looked at the lyrics and I took a deep dive and I said, no, this is way something else. This is not about this.
Everything is shit in like SoCal, but you're stuck in it because it's Californication. I don't know. I didn't listen to the song in like many years, but that's what I thought.
I think this song is basically referencing the superficial, fake nature of California and how Californication has inspired people from all over the world to
have this like
to desire
fake
this
LA
facade,
style.
exactly to this facade, and they say all these stories are then created there in California, but they kind of give some hope that it's not a complete negative thing to aspire to want to be in this position, but actually some positive could be created out of there.
What's nice is like 80% of Red Hot Chili Peppers songs are about California, so there's a bunch of like nice ones too.
Exactly, and that's
like Danny
sort of,
California is one that's all about like how great Cali is.
Right, and that's why people talked about, okay, like what is the actual message here? Is it to warn of the negative, even though these people clearly love Los Angeles and love that kind of scene out there too. And then there's the deeper conspiracy theories kind of stuff as well, which is the parts I'm interested in.
Yeah, I'm loving the deep cuts.
The second one had to do with, they talked about like a girl from Sweden. They're like, oh, maybe it's a reference to that girl from Sweden who just gave them like, oh my, these guys are they're like psychic spies from China. I'm like, oh, now we're getting into this sort of like media control and the consumerism from products from China.
Do you know the website Genius? Genius.
Yeah.
That's like the best for like deep dives into like song lyrics, where you'll have like huge dedicated like groups of people like dissecting every single line and what it means. Or often like the singer themselves will post like, it's fucking amazing, especially for rap, where you'll have like fully dissected lyrics of like awesome songs, like explaining like what every single word meant and why.
And like you could, really and it's super subjective sometimes a lot, because you can, even if the performer says it's this, one, they could be lying, and two, you might interpret things differently as well.
There's often no right answer. Even like once you make art, it's out there. Whatever you thought when you made it no longer matters. It's just, it exists.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that shit.
I know. I really want to figure out how to make videos like that where they're more open to interpretation. Even if I have one meaning, you could still perceive the meaning to be differently. And maybe subconsciously that is my meaning. And I'm not actively aware that that's not that's what I'm saying, but that's something that I could be thinking, and that's how I decided.
Artist, I'm getting on this art grind.
Hell yeah, man! Listen, I don't know, I'm loving. I love kind of like the idea of hiding meanings in content,
mixed messages,
stuff like that.
Open interpretations.
Exactly. Yeah. So I kind of, I mean, that's like American Psycho, that movie too. When it's very open to interpretation. Even if the director, who I've watched some interviews with her, says one thing, we can still see it different ways too, and you could still take whatever it is that you'd like to take away from that. And
exactly, and there is no wrong answer, because what it gives you is what it gave you. So your takeaway is true no matter what.
Right. Didn't they mentioned Rap Genius for Genius? Didn't Foxwood Fiend?
Yes, he did. Shout out Ariel Schneller right here. He was
involved. His friends did it, or what was what was the story told on the pod before?
He was partially involved with his friends. In fact, it was
a tough fucking beat. That is.
It was a poll on 2+2 what to name the site. That's how it got to be Rap Genius. I can remember some of the other choices. It was Rap Genius, Rap Unwrapped, Rap Exegesis, which I thought was cool. I had never heard the word exegesis. It means specifically the interpretation of coded messages, or like the interpretation of words or phrases like from the Bible that like is open to interpretation. And they were planning on using that name, but then they realized rap and then a word that starts with E is going to have the URL start with rape. So they nixed it because they didn't want that. Yeah. So then it went down between Rap Unwrapped and Rap Genius. And they did Rap Genius. But that was all through 2+2. That was a 2+2 poll.
And now it turned into one of the biggest
sites.
Now
it's like the biggest fucking site ever.
That's ridiculous.
Bit of a beat for Foxwood's Fiend.
That's what I'm saying. It's a tough beat for him. He didn't get involved with it.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
He like bowed out after.
Yeah, and then it turned out to be it's still a major site, and it's even growing. They do content on YouTube, and they have the artists come on there and like say the lyrics and then break them down, and people really love that.
It's a pretty sick setup.
Oh yeah, it's really, really dope, man. As Scott seeing the Dream Machine, Landon asks.
So, I do no work, no studying, no nothing. I shoot from the hip.
Okay.
In my poker games, I would say, is that whenever we joke about like people having all the work for it, I'm like the one last guy out in the Wild West, just like taking guesses and hoping it all works out still.
So you have seen it. Let's move on. As Solver Y says, let's hear some Seiver/Hollywood Haxton Ivy League stories.
Oh man, I mean, it's just so cool.
So where'd you guys go to school?
We went to Brown.
Brown together? Okay.
Yeah. And like the thing I always tell everyone is like the number one thing for getting great at poker is have someone you're doing it with. If you have someone that's equally as hungry as you and like at an equal level, which I think is much better than having someone better or worse. Like if you start from a similar path and you're equally hungry, you can just like bounce things off each other in a way to like help make a ton of growth. So like knowing Ike early was insane for me, but I got to give a shout out to the whole Brown University poker community. We had like a home game of like 8 people that we played, and like 6 became professional poker players. Jeez. And like 3 or 4 like did it for a living for like many years.
Wow.
Like just real.
Any other names we would know out there?
Jared Oken, if you know him, he was pro for a long time, did it really well, was beating high stakes tournaments for quite a while. A friend of ours who died actually a few years back, Cox Quinn, he was Cox Quinn on Stars, played high stakes also, or mid stakes, and did very well. Noah SD was in our game, if you remember him from the 2+2
legendary
days. Legend.
Deuces Cracked video maker. Talked about HUDs. I learned a lot from his videos.
Noah SD was in our home game. Just like a bunch of guys that like ended up pretty deep in poker in various ways over the years, all starting from the same like $20 buy-in home game.
What happens though once one of you overtake the other in terms of that skill level, and can you still coexist in terms of growing together?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's why it's like nice to expand, and it was something that was like so nice about 2+2 back in the day, that it was easy to find a group of people to always bounce things off of like similar level, which doesn't really exist today. You kind of have to like find your own group and your own niche and like push hard and like work together.
Right.
But yeah, it's just so different nowadays, where you, like everyone's like isolated in their own little mini pockets of like work and trying, but like you still see it everywhere. Like you just think of most people in poker and you can think of like the group they're a part of.
Right.
Like the best players in poker all had like a group that they worked together with. Not even in like a high level like solver way. I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about like you run a hand by, you talk about this concept, you think about this, because it's like what I was saying earlier. If I think something, by definition, I'm going to think it's right. So I need a friend to be like, hey, Scott, I don't think that's right. I think maybe it's actually this. And then that can give me the light bulb of, oh, shit, maybe I am completely wrong about like X, Y, and Z, because my brain could have never even thought of this alternative.
Right.
So you just have like different brains thinking different things, and you can like come to a consensus on what's going on.
It's the importance of conversation with other people.
Yeah, that's why you can never do any of these things by yourself, because you're always going to be trapped in your own circle.
Right. A lot of people are asking about the Coleman hand. Now, I vaguely remember this. I think it's 9-9 versus aces. You flop a set of nines in a 3 or 4 bet pot. You 3-bet, he 4-bets, you call, set of nines, and he folds, I believe, at some point in time in the hand.
Yeah, honestly, like I don't think it was that.
It was a king-high board, and then
hand,
right, you
like,
could.
There's a chance my pre-flop was bad. Was the only thing. It was Roble raised, and he had been raising pretty wide, specifically from this spot on these blinds. It was just a specific table spot from this position where I had the opinion that Roble was raising pretty wide, and to me it seemed fairly obvious that this was a thing that was happening as well. Just whatever. And Coleman had 3-bet him, and I had nines, and we were super deep, and took the choice on the cold 4-bet line. Could do a bunch of things with it. Was happy with a mix of all three here, to be honest. Chose raise, fold, and Roble Coleman 5-bet, but he 5-bet very small. And I could be wrong about this as well, but my assumption at the time is we were very deep. I knew at the time it was a very, very big game for Coleman. Like very big, I knew at the time. I thought this was like an extremely narrow, defined range here. Like, and again, I could be wrong, but these are the assumptions you make. And I play poker where I make very, very strong assumptions and go with it. Like, looking back at it, I feel probably he shouldn't have had a 5-bet range, because my gut was in this spot after a cold 4-bet here. Like, his 5-bet was not having the like ace 4 suited 10% of the time or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I think it was just the goods, and I'm like, we're gonna peel him off here, because he just gave me a really good price and I was in position. And
very deep.
Yeah, very deep. And then I flopped the set, but there was a king on the board.
Right, king 9 something. What was it, king 9? Do you remember?
It was king 9 like 3.
Okay, king 9 4, king 9 3, something like that. Right.
And I was worried that, kings is the possibility here. But then just from like the way he was playing it and my decision, and just obviously the number of combos of aces versus kings, I decided I had to play for stacks, and he made a good fold on the river. Kind of. Like, this is the situation I talk about on these hands, in the same way that like I could say that I thought for the money he might only have like aces or kings to 5-bet this incredibly deep in this huge game. Maybe he's also able to make the thought that I'm not going to bluff a gazillion big blinds with nothing into this spot, but like the dude had aces, the board ran dry, and he folds aces, and he might have only ever had aces, meaning like the bluff would have worked every single time.
Right.
But that's like one of the complicated spots of no limit hold'em, when you're super deep playing in really big games that don't happen all the time. That's what makes these TV poker games so interesting, because it's not your regular game. It's your game that you're getting to play like 3 times a year at these stakes, and you're never this deep, and everyone knows everyone else is like a little nervous or a little something, and that they're not comfortable, and all of this comes into play in these hands like this. But honestly, I think it's like a good fold by him on the end, because like the only bluff I could have ever had there would be like Queen Jack or Jack 10 suited that had a gut shot and a backdoor flush draw, and that I just decided, fuck this guy, I'm going for it, which is a thing I've done
Seems
before.
possible, yeah.
Yeah. Which is a thing I've definitely done before, but like, kudos to him, he makes the fold on the river. But honestly, it's not like the most interesting of hands, other than when you think about creating narrowly defined ranges and then being willing to like fold all of it or not fold all of it. It's just everyone calling the other person a coward in a various way and usually being correct.
I think the most interesting part, I mean, there's a lot of interesting things what you said, but the idea of identifying when certain players are opening loose from certain positions, depending on who's in the blinds and what those dynamics between those players might be, and then being able to identify that and figure out a strategy in order to potentially combat that or take advantage of that is quite fascinating in itself.
In this hand, Aussie Matt was in the big blind. Roble in this session had one of the greatest hands of all time.
Saw that one, yeah.
I think King Deuce versus Queen 5 or whatever. Nothing versus nothing. One of the greatest like in-your-face hands ever.
Oh yeah.
And I just knew, it was just very clear that Roble was going to want to play like close to any 2 when Matt was in the big blind because of this dynamic. And I was like, oh, he's getting in there real wide. And I thought it was going to be obvious to other people. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Coleman had aces. Who the fuck knows?
Right.
Like maybe he would have 3-bet ace deuce off, but like we don't know. He had aces. So that's what like informed the decision.
So I always wonder how aware online other regulars are of that when multi-tabling, because I'm always aware of like who's in, and I make very exploitative opens depending on these sort of situations like that. And you're always thinking like, who's aware of this, who isn't aware of this, who's going to attack you, is it going to attack you, and try to figure those things out. And it's kind of fascinating of an idea.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'd be able to do it with like a huge amount of multi-tabling, but I've never been like a big multi-tabling guy. Like I don't think I've ever played over like 6 tables at the same time before.
Probably smart.
So it's like
focus on the focusing the deep thought rather than the boom 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 boom
so
boom
it's
kind of
not
thing
really
like that.
Like a talent I've had before.
Yeah.
But luckily also one I don't need now that I play.
I was going to say,
I
almost don't. I think it's a talent maybe not worth pursuing in some ways. Like I wish I was more focused on playing less tables and just paying attention to every spot and trying to get better at every spot versus trying to form these blanket strategies, 24 tabling and just having these
That's
approaches.
why I like heads up so much, because I could play like 4 tables against the same person, still be getting like 800 hands an hour, 600 hands an hour, like get a huge number of hands, but before tabling, and there's only 2 spots, button or big blind against the same guy.
Right.
So like I didn't have to worry about that while still getting in like a ton of reps.
It'd be great if like one table they just played really tight, and the other 3 they like.
Oh no, I would do shit like that all the time. 'Cause that's the shit I do, because I'm weird. I'm an animal like with like weird metagame stuff. I would be like, this table I'm gonna play like 50 big blind, 40% 3-bets of it, and on these other tables I'm gonna do like 70% big blind, 10 3-bet. So their poker tracker numbers are going to say one thing, but they're going to be wrong on every table. Like I would do stupid shit like that all the time.
I used to like to do one thing where I would go to, like, a week on, a week off of different strategies. Like,
oh, that's nice.
One time I would be really loose, and then the next I'd be like super tight, and then you see like what is it? So
also, you kind of have to do that because like so many people, especially like when people were like first starting using Poker Tracker and not even really like knowing about this stuff, some people would have like the craziest exploit in their game that like your brain could not fucking imagine of all time. That like if you didn't change, you were going to be taken out. Like my favorite one of this is, and I'm not trying to badmouth the player here or anything, he's legendary player, great fucking player, Negravante, if you know.
Okay.
Negravante, one of them.
He was from where was he from?
He was like best friends with Take Chip.
Okay, I definitely played with him before.
The 2550, great player, but we had a week in like 2007 where we played heads up every day for tabling. After 1 week, we had the literal something like 30 to 35,000 hands on each other heads up. The dude, after like 30,000 hands, had, from the big blind, I'll still remember this, he was like 42% he played of hands from the big blind, and like 3-bet like 41% of them. Over like a 40,000 hand sample that I looked at, the guy only ever flatted Queen 10 and Queen Jack. I'm sorry, Queen 10 and Queen 9. That was it. Literally 1%. Just if he ever got Queen 10 and Queen 9, those were his only flats. And I was seeing this, I'm like, this can't be real. This must just be like a blip in the matrix or whatever. But I decided at one point that like this guy just 3-bet everything because he thought you're supposed to 3-bet everything. And then was like, it's just like, these hands, like, I don't think I should, whatever. And there was a hand where I raised kings and he flatted, and it came Queen 10-9.
You're like, man, fuck this.
And I was so tilted already. Like the flop came and I was just like so fucking angry. And like he checked. And I like bet really small because I just couldn't not fucking bet. Because I'm like, there's just no way, like whatever. And the guy check raises me. And I'm like, I fucking know it. But he like check raised me small. I'm like, okay, call. Turns a deuce. He like bet small and I just folded. And I was just like, fuck this guy. I'm confident. I know it. I can do it. Just seemed like snap folded to like a very tiny bet on nothing here. Just because like you could do that back then. Like none of us had any idea anything about anything. Like when you look now compared to then, like we were all so fucking bad. And everyone is so good now. It's like crazy what the differences are.
40% free bet, 1% calling. So that's absurd.
Yeah. But there were a million things like that, and I had a million flaws myself.
So you're probably doing similar. You're probably like c-betting 90% or something crazy like that.
Yeah, of course. Like I had a million fucking flaws too, like that. Like everyone did, because we just played our game what we thought was right. And then it was only when it's like, oh, you could like look at Poker Tracker and see the sum of what you do. Oh shit, you always do this really stupid thing. Like that's an eye-opening thing that like at first didn't really exist in poker to like know about.
Who came up with Poker Tracker and how do we go back in time and stop them?
Yeah, correct.
People do say that was the kind of the catalyst for a lot of fucking some of these things up. Was
100%.
Yeah. Who came up with that idea?
I don't know.
Sick fuck.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Real selfish.
Yeah, I know. Training sites. Goddamn Taylor KB. Was he the first one? I don't even know. Was Taylor and the first one? Taylor and Andrew Wiggins.
I don't think the training sites were bad though. I really don't. I know that's a minority opinion, but I think the training sites are only good for poker. I don't think people are becoming world beaters from the training sites, and I think turning bad players into mediocre players is really good for the longevity of poker as well, because it engages people, you get better. People like the feel of being better at poker.
Right.
And I think it's just good for the overall health of poker. And even if it made like low and mid stakes games somewhat harder, I think it makes them exist for a lot longer in a way that was probably good. But that's a very not common held opinion. That's just always my opinion on it. I don't think they were bad for poker at all.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have got good at poker without the training sites. Really,
yeah,
I mean, they help.
But training sites was like the initial concept of content, like similar to this almost. Like the training sites were a way for people to engage in poker when they weren't playing poker. And I think content of any kind is really important for poker and to keep people wanting to play more.
Right.
And that was just like the first form of non-played
Well,
content.
I think this is why the live poker is kind of becoming more and more popular, is because there's so many vlogs that are very popular and people get to see live poker being played and then they want to go play.
Oh yeah, and these like meetup games and stuff that people do now.
Yeah.
Seems like the greatest thing in the world. Like honestly, I haven't really like followed any of these like Twitch poker guys much at all. Like I know some of the names, but I haven't really watched any of it. But it seems so cool in like developing a community and bringing a group of people onto your journey.
Yeah.
Where you're turning like the eye of poker into a we. Like we are going on this journey. We are going to climb this mountain. These are the goals we have. Like, you get to feel a part of something. I don't know. It seems
it's a really
interesting
cool reasoning for why these things are popular, the vlogs and the Twitch streams. It's a good point. It's kind of like a we thing. You get to join the content creator along the way. And that's actually something I don't do. I don't really like make it the journey about me and my audience. I make it more about the guest in a lot of ways, right?
You're a different niche. It's a completely different thing.
I've just never really, I used to do that back in the day, but with my blogging and stuff, like when I wrote when I played poker,
Like when you're writing, or if you have like the Joe Ingram forum, or if you have like a concept for your content to be centered around, you can then still keep what's right for you, which is making it about the guest, while still keeping these great Joe Ingram fans having a spot for them.
Yeah, that's true. That's something I'm trying to think more about doing, is just working more of myself into this kind of stuff I do. Talk more about what my objections are, goals are, kind of those things I want to do, objectives. You know, kind of just the idea of bettering the production and bettering the marketing and bettering the content and being more consistent with it.
You have a vision and then you're taking steps for it, which is all we can ever do.
Yeah, I always had a poker vision, and then now it's like, do I want to accept to have other visions that are outside of poker? But
they're not outside of poker. It's all interconnected.
That's true.
Because poker was just the vessel you used for your vision.
Right.
The vision was the thing that always stuck around.
I mean, I still wish the online PLO was still a thing, really. There were those stepping stones, and you could actually play, and I mean, you can still play now, but it's just, who knows how much longer that lasts for. The sites might shut it down. Who knows what's exactly happening in these games as well, too. So it is what it is. So
that's true.
It is what it is.
It's fine. Okay, I'll start using you to fire all my PLO questions, too.
Over PLO stuff?
Yeah, when I play these random great game hands that I don't know what I'm doing, I'll be like, yo, Joe, what was I supposed to do?
I've actually started studying more PLO now than I was studying in the past, just because there's a lot more, there's a lot of good content out there too. There's like whatever. I'm gonna move on from the type of I'm gonna move on from what I'm studying out there, because it's good stuff. But yeah, it's really fun to kind of just work on my articulation process. And I feel like in the past I never challenged myself to articulate my thoughts out loud in terms of these spots. So now, as you learn these things, and I speak them, and I say, wow, I've never put it like that.
Yeah.
You know, never tried to be like
It's hard to have a thought when you don't have the language for that thought.
Yeah.
And like, as the language of poker develops, it lets our brain actually think in more complex ways.
Right.
Like, when poker started, like, shit, we didn't even have the word c-bet. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so like the idea of the concept
betting
of
after
after the flop was a harder concept for the brain to even think about, because we didn't just have like an easy term for it.
Right.
Like, as the terminology changes, in which you especially see in PLO, you can start thinking about the game in a lot better ways.
I'll give you an example of something I've been reading lately. Thanks, brother.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know where you can find that. I probably shouldn't show the book on here. But this is a book about PLO 3-bet pots, game theory, and practice.
Oh, sick.
And it's one of the sickest books I've ever read in my entire life. And basically it breaks down all these different spots and all these different situations. And just reading through this book, to me, is the most fascinating thing, because it's stuff I've never really studied by word, but like a lot of intuitive things I just did while playing. Exactly. And I'm like, wow, okay, this is how this is why you split these ranges up in these situations like that. And now people are going to ask me what the book is and where you can buy it. And
the answer is you can't buy it.
Actually, you can't actually buy it online, I believe.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It's by Corey Mikasel, who I've actually talked with a bunch recently, and fucking really actually like talking to the guy. So, but yeah, it's one of my favorite books on poker right now. It's
Dude,
great.
That's awesome.
It's just a great read. Landon said, listening to Joey's breakdown multi-table articulation process is insane, can confirm. That's actually something I can break down quite articulate, because that's what I did for so long. I was like 24 tabled all the time, did all the Supernova Elite a couple times, and the way I thought about multi-tabling was just like nothing I've ever really heard discussed, and I think that's why I'm so good at multi-tabling, right? Like, you know what I mean? It's just, I just viewed the game as multi-tabling. I didn't really look at poker as like getting better at poker. I looked at it as getting better at multi-tabling.
At the
playing
act
poker.
Of tabling, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
But that's also an extremely successful way to be. You look at like the Sean Deebs of the world, who were like 32 tabling, because they took it to like the logical conclusion of being able to like do it like at the maximum amount. The first like Supernova Elite grinders, the like Nanonokos of the world, guys that are like 24 tabling high fucking stakes and like doing what it takes. Legends. Like, it is an unbelievable skill set.
Nanonoko's a fucking legend.
Of course.
Like, it's people might not know now, you know, they didn't really follow before, but this was like the original guy that his graph didn't go down for 5 million like on PTR. Yeah, like
OG.
you look him up, you're like, is it possible? Like, how can this be?
And he's doing it all 24 tabling.
Yeah, he'd
like,
always
nothing.
And then he
ever
would randomly shot take and then like lose a bunch and then go back down and make it all back. It was just
yeah.
I'd always root for him. Like when he would take 20 or 50 shots, I'd always be like, I hope this is the time he breaks through. And it kind of was the adversity kind of hit. Yeah. So it's kind of
But
I
like
don't know, man.
huge shout out to like a true legend of like the original online gambling.
I know, man. I think he's still doing Triton poker commentary.
Yeah. I
like
just heard him for the big one. He was doing a bunch of stuff.
Oh, for the new Triton series. Are you a supporter of those series? Do you go play any of that at all? Or are you going to think about it? Or?
So I have not played them yet. I'm a huge supporter of them.
Mm-hmm.
The production seems great. The people are great. The tournaments seem awesome. Like every part of it is great. As a fan, it's been the best content to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you get like Nick Schulman doing commentary. You get an amazing set. You get super high level play. You get an unbelievably interesting mix of pros and recreational players. I love that part.
Yeah.
And like, not just any recreational players, but really fun ones to watch. Like complete fucking animals. Like it's great. It's
capable of anything amazing. At any time. Also, they're funny. They're going to talk. They're going to needle you.
The best pros these days, because it's correct, like because it makes you the best. Like they're not just playing like road ABC, waiting for like the Rex to make a huge mistake. Like you're playing with a Rec that can do some animal shit. You become 10 times more animal to like try and get to them first or like get in those pots first. So like it actually creates unbelievable play. People talk about sometimes like the boringness of these top pros. I feel quote unquote like boring hands only happen if you're at a table of 9 of the 1 through 9 best players in the world. But if you have like the 1 through 7 best players in the world and 2 interesting recreational players, now every single hand is going to blow your mind because that's just what it takes. Like one wrinkle in the system and everyone has to adjust to it.
Do you like watching poker a lot?
No, not particularly, except like the Trident series I really, really liked.
It would seem like the way you speak about this, it seems like you would love to watch some of these things. Like it seems like you like to watch the most interesting play, I guess, and you find that most interesting with the dynamic between professional and recreational, but recreational is capable of
definitely
of kind of playing at a high level.
Definitely.
Yeah, it seems like you just like that creativity that goes into play on both sides of things there, and seeing how the smart businessman is going to counter the smart professional poker player strategies, and then how those are going to intersect with the rest of the table.
Exactly. It's like pretty fascinating stuff.
I can tell that's what you enjoy.
It's cool.
Whereas maybe the 9 best at the table, not as interesting to you?
Not as interesting to me, but could be more interesting to others. Just everyone has a personal preference.
Just like Nick said, maybe it's boring to some people. Maybe it's not boring to some people, right? Like everyone's got their own preference for what they personally enjoy.
Yeah.
So I love the mix on Triton and I like how aware the VIPs are, and they like needle. They're like VIP.
Of course.
There's like they're not.
That's
there's
something
no
so healthy about it. There's no like unseemly like wrangling people in or building them up, being like, oh, you're secretly like the best in the world. I know you can do this. Like it is just a fun, jovial atmosphere where they're playing for like trillions of dollars, and everyone's laughing, having a great time, and knowing what's up.
Yeah,
like, something really special.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we've been going for a while here, guys. We'll wrap things up for everyone out there watching right now. Before we go, we'll get a podcast guest suggestion from Scott. Scott, who do you think I should get on the podcast? What do you want to see?
Ooh.
Who'd be good to have on here? Maybe you haven't had him on before yet or something like that.
Wow. How am I not thinking of someone fast? That's crazy.
I've had a lot of people on.
You've had so many people on recently. You've had all the best. I mean, honestly, you want to really do it? It'll be impossible, but get Doyle.
He's number 1 on my list.
Just get Doyle.
That? My God, that's like a life dream. It's actually a dream. I want to get
Doyle or get Billy Baxter.
I talked with Nick about that too. Yeah,
and Billy Baxter very probably would do it too. Billy Baxter has done an hour or almost 90-minute radio interview before. That if people can find, just like Google like Billy Baxter interview, it's like incredible. The man has, possibly even more than Doyle, the most interesting life of anyone in poker, from things he's done, from being boxing manager of heavyweight champions of the world to winning the landmark Supreme Court case in front of the actual Supreme Court that makes it legal to be a professional poker player. Billy Baxter versus the United States of America. That's the Supreme Court case that makes it so that we can be professional poker players. Before that, it used to be against the law to declare on your taxes that you were a professional gambler. Billy Baxter took the IRS to the Supreme Court and he won.
Sounds like a fascinating investigation right there.
The man's just had the most interesting life in all sorts of ways, and is the greatest storyteller. That would be my vote.
Okay. People say JRB. I'm gonna message JRB, and hopefully we get that podcast over the next couple weeks here, man. Obviously, Sean Riverland.
Obviously.
Also
an all-time legend.
Fucking legend, man. Guys, that's it, man. Let me know in the comments below if you watch it right now. Take my time, please. I appreciate if you could support. Hit that like button right there, and leave a comment below. If you're watching right now, you can still leave one on the YouTube channel. And yeah, let us know what you think on Twitter, on social media. Obviously, I really enjoy reading the comments, and it fires me up, gets me motivated. I think the guests love reading them as well too. Especially, the guests they come back, they check the comments, they want to see what people said, they want to make people to enjoy themselves when they listen to these things too. So if you did, let us know. That's it, Scott.
Dude, thank you, Joey.
Much love, brother. Amazing podcast. And you want to follow Scott? He's on Twitter at Scott Seiver. He doesn't really do much on there. What about you? Do a lot of stuff on Instagram?
Not a lot.
Okay.
Just a little here and there.
Okay. But yeah, guys, that's it.
More Twitter stuff.
That's it. Peace out. Adios. Choke slam the like button. That's it. I gotta go up here and do this now. It's just a different setup.